theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So over the weekend, Friday night, kids being silly. It was supposed to be a Juneteenth celebration. How many times has that been said, with the next sentence being, but then violence erupted.
Surveillance video capturing what appears to be a barrage of gunfire. Shortly after, you see people running for cover. Chicago police were called to 95th and Princeton after a mass shooting around 11 Friday night in the city's Princeton Park neighborhood. At least 13 people were injured.
244 West 95th Street. I need crowd control.
Chicago police say a red SUV pulled up to a large crowd. Investigators say two suspects began shooting from inside the car before taking off.
There's approximately 25 shell casings, both rifle and pistol rounds, from 243 West 95th all the way to the end of the block on Princeton.
The victims' ages range from 17 to 47 years old and were taken to different hospitals. A 26-year-old man was last listed in critical condition. The majority of the victims are expected to recover from their injuries.
All of a sudden, you hear this loud I can hear the rapid fire of gunfire. And I said, oh no, can't be. And next thing I know, you hear the sirens.
Michael Blount was home at the time of the shooting. He says he's disappointed it happened at a time when people were looking to celebrate the holiday.
It was a shame that it happened on Juneteenth. That's what's supposed to be about, celebration, not what just happened. You know, that was just purely wrong.
Yeah, ABC 7 reporting, oh no, this can't be happening. In Roseland? Really? It can't be happening. The credulous Chicago press corps. Excuse me, sir, with all due respect, 7 people have been shot, 15 people, 7 people have been murdered, 15 people have been wounded so far this year in Roseland. Before that mass shooting, were 13 people lucky to escape with their lives, and hopefully the person in critical condition does too. I mean, it could have been a mass casualty event, obviously. You're surprised in Roseland? When does the performative shock cease and desist? 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. But something else I wanted to point out here, other than the obvious, the mass shooting du jour that we talk about on the week after weekends in the summer, routinely, and not limited anymore, but mainly. The reporting on this. This is not exactly new either, but, you know, when there's an opportunity to drive the point home, to try to penetrate the granite between so many people's ears in Chicagoland, I think it's worth taking. Neither the races of the suspects nor the victims were disclosed in any of the reporting I saw. And that's because almost assuredly they're black. And by the way, Roseland is 90% plus black. You know, it's one of those neighborhoods that speaks to Chicago being the most de facto racially segregated city in the country, and that's the work product, one of the many examples of the work product of one-party rule for 100 years. So give yourselves a round of applause. That's what you've accomplished. Chicago has. By choosing the same, different names, the same people, the same identitarian poison over and over and over again. Civilizational suicide. But what my comment is mainly about is this brain-eating virus that is identitarianism, which I just mentioned. If the shooters were white, well, you know what the reporting would be. If the victims were white, there probably would already be a GoFundMe page set up for the legal defense of suspects to be identified later. So since neither is the case, the violence will be forgotten even faster than the 13 people who are lucky to be alive. This will dissipate into ether. Probably, it already has. These identitarians that represent, to varying degrees, all the candidates for mayor next year, the entire political power structure of the city and not just the county, the region and the state, meaning Cook and the Collars, the region. They feign empathy, yet they only care about people being mowed down in a neighborhood like Roseland, in this lawless city called Chicago, if their plight presents a political opportunity. If it doesn't, Chicago being Chicago. Identitarianism. Don't get hung up on this black-white thing. That's the game they want you to play. Identitarianism is not only synonymous with neo-Marxism and racism, but it is also synonymous with a callous disregard for human life, particularly the lives of the humans that identitarians claim to represent. Preening before cameras, talking about the marginalized and the downtrodden. It's a fraud. Matt in Mount Greenwood, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan. It's a shame, and you're exactly right. At the end of the day, these are human beings that those in charge just simply don't care about. I was just talking to my 16-year-old daughter this weekend about this type of stuff, and it's almost heartbreaking. But when do the constituents start caring? They're just the ignorance and stupidity of the average resident is palpable, and it's almost like don't even report this stuff because nobody cares other than those of us talking about it. It's a sad day. Another sad day.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Matt. Yeah, where do the kids get this where do they get this callous disregard for human life such that they would open fire on a crowd of 100 people? And some of the reporting, they said 25 rounds in the ABC report. Some of the reporting was more like 100 plus rounds. So just indiscriminately firing into a crowd. How do kids grow up to commit atrocities like that? Where do they come up with this idea that life doesn't matter, and including their own? I don't know. They pay attention to what the adults in the community are exhibiting. Maybe that's where they get it. And since it was Father's Day yesterday, the impacts of fatherlessness on young men. Research shows that children from fatherless homes are significantly more likely to engage in criminal behavior. 63% of youth suicides, fatherless homes. It's 5 times the average. 86% of children exhibiting behavioral disorders, fatherless homes. 20 times the average. 71% of high school dropouts, fatherless homes. 9 times the average. 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions from fatherless homes. And in the United States, there's roughly 18 million children in fatherless homes, about 1 in 4. And since we know it is a very small percentage of the population that commits a majority of the violent crime, this seems to be particularly relevant because it's addressable. Obviously, there are a lot of kids that grow up in fatherless homes that law-abiding and go on to success, and single moms do a wonderful job and so on and so forth. But the data is the data is the data, and it speaks to something unmistakable. And just back to the media piece of it, this was an interesting on-air resignation. This guy out of Davenport who works for the NBC affiliate there in the Quad Cities, Dustin Nolan, he announced that, and he's obviously a young guy, small market, but he announced that he's leaving TV news, not to return. And it was sort of veiled, the reason. I'm going to try and track this down because I don't exactly know where he's coming from. But just some of the words that he used suggest that he's tired of having to play the network affiliate propaganda game to sanitize the news the way that this story is sanitized in Chicagoland. And I'm sure similar stories are sanitized in Quad Cities, because let me tell you something, the network affiliate in the Quad Cities operates under the same mindset as the one in Chicago or anywhere else. You want to talk about groupthink? Go look at TV newsrooms in scare quotes. Dustin Nolan, he's done.
Well, before we go this morning, I have an announcement. Today is my last day here at KWQC TV6. I have chosen to step away from the news industry. Before I say goodbye, I just want to say I hope every one of you that's allowed me to be a part of your mornings know just how important that I have taken this job. How much it means to me that you've trusted me these past few years to bring you the news in the morning. I promise you I've given you everything I have. I've never tried to be perfect or what many think a newsman is supposed to be, but I have always done my best to be transparent, bring you the facts, and I've always been myself. I've loved being able to provide a public service to this place we all call home, the Quad Cities. When it comes to this job, all I've ever wanted to do is report on the issues that really matter. I've always believed that we, as a local news station, owe you, the viewers, the best that we can do, because without you, none of us would be able to do this job. I also believe that we, as a local news station, have to be more than trends or sanitized news, because it makes people feel uncomfortable. That's why the facts matter, and that's why we do what we do here. We have to take people out of their bubbles and comfort zones and make them think about the world we all live in. And this is a bittersweet goodbye. Yes, I'm looking forward to my next chapter in life, but it's not easy to say goodbye. The hardest part of this job for me is the realization that I won't be working with Jenna anymore, because she isn't just the greatest co-anchor on the news desk, but she is the greatest co-anchor in life as well. And if you don't have a Jenna in your life, I suggest you find one, because she makes dreams come true in every way another human can. And to the great and talented people here at TV6, like Kevin Phelps, Mike Ortiz, Ryan, our morning producer, Kaylee and Madison, our morning directors, and people like Deanna as well, and others that, all the other wonderful people here that I've worked with here at TV6, I just want to say thank you for being great professionals and, more importantly, great people. There will be no more TV tomorrows for me, so for everyone who's allowed me to be a part of their morning, I really do thank you. Good day and goodbye.
Yeah, you know, the emotion. It's fine. He's a young guy. It's earnest. It's a thing. But you know, sanitized trends. No more TV tomorrows for me. He's done with it. Why? You know, I listened to him, and it reminded me of like young teachers I've spoken to. I can't do what I got into this business to do, so I'm leaving. That's what it reminds me of. Bill, Northwest Side, North Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, the gentleman was extremely disappointed about the violence on the June 19th holiday. But every other weekend would be fine. It's not a problem then. It's just for that particular holiday. Bad, very bad.
All right, Bill. Speaking of fathers, boy, the New York Times had a unique tribute to fathers on yesterday's Father's Day. We'll pick that up at 5:38. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
5:33, a rainy 59 degrees this morning, clearing out for later in the day in our QC Kinetics newsroom. 36 have been shot, 7 fatally so far in shootings across Chicago this weekend. A 21-year-old man was fatally shot Sunday morning on the city's south side in the 5500 block of South Princeton. 3 were shot at a large gathering in the Lawndale neighborhood Saturday night. Shooting happened around 11:30. Police are investigating a mass shooting that left more than a dozen others hurt on Chicago's south side as an SUV pulled alongside a large crowd Friday night in the 200 block of West 95th. In other news this morning, Keir Starmer has announced he will stand down as Prime Minister of Great Britain after a number of days of pressure from Labour members of Parliament, including cabinet ministers, that may usher in Andy Burnham to number 10 Downing Street.
Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision.
More than a dozen cabinet ministers have privately told Starmer his time was up, and his inner circle began working on drafts of a resignation speech on Saturday. If Burnham, the Manchester, England mayor and MP, runs unchallenged, he could take over the reins of government as soon as July 16. Mediators with Pakistan and Qatar say discussions between the U.S. and Iran were positive on Sunday. However, continued fighting between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon could put some negotiations in jeopardy.
Tehran took offense to President Trump's comments about more attacks if Iran goes back on an interim deal. In a social media post, Trump threatened to bomb Iran if its proxies in Lebanon don't stop attacking Israel. Tehran countered, saying Israel's deadly strikes must also stop immediately. Trump also mentioned the U.S. could take over the vital Strait of Hormuz if a long-term deal is not reached within 60 days.
Parts of the Los Angeles area are under a state of emergency as crews battle a fire at a cold storage facility in Boyle Heights. L.A. Fire Chief Jaime Moore.
Now what we're using is water cannons to cool off the area where Cooler 1 is, to keep it cordoned off. We're allowing Cooler 2 to burn off a little more. Then we're going to be able to extinguish this fire.
Firefighters will need to remove more than 85 million pounds of spoiled food when the fire is put out. A 24-year-old man is accused of driving up from Georgia to meet up with a teen girl in Lake County. Jordi Fuerte Perez made plans to meet the 14-year-old girl who was reported missing from her home near Gurnee Saturday night. Both were found a short time later at the Independence Grove Forest Preserve near Libertyville. On Sunday, the last JCPenney in Chicago closed its doors for good as the Ford City Mall shut down for good.
I feel like this should be a busier mall. I mean, it doesn't feel like it should be closing down.
The city of Chicago had filed an emergency order to vacate that facility after the fire department confirmed the mall's fire suppression system hadn't worked in 2 years. 2 have died due to strong storms in southern Illinois. In Jefferson County, the sheriff confirmed the death. Much of that damage near the small town of Dix, which sits along I-57 between Salem and Mount Vernon. Chicago's professional rugby team achieved Major League Rugby history at a rain-soaked SeatGeek Stadium in the southwest suburbs, a national title.
Good, and our supporters to get behind us in this weather, it just proves how good Chicago is and how good the Hounds are.
Hounds took down the California Legion 35-17 to cap an undefeated season and win the national title. Chicago sports, White Sox on a 3-game losing skid following a 5-4 10-inning loss to the Tigers. Cubs and Blue Jays rained out. Wyndham Clark wins the U.S. Open at Shinnecock, where your Texas wedge was your best friend. The news, a service of the AM 560 Advantage, where membership has its privileges. Join today, 560theanswer.com/join. A check of the roads coming up. But Chicago's Morning Answer continues after we check your forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Alex Marlowe sees great numbers from the economy.
We got 172,000 jobs. The forecast was 85,000 new jobs. So this is twice as much. The trend that we're accelerating, economists have underestimated job growth now 3 straight months, as noted. 3 months average, widely considered a more reliable gauge.
The Alex Marlowe Show. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer. Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, add evenings of conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
Hey y'all, it's the Rocket Roger Clemens here. Spent a lot of time pitching heat. Years later, the pain in my joints remind me of those days, but I'm not looking to sit still, and I definitely am not interested in going under the knife. That's why I chose QC Kinetics.
Not just for elite retired athletes. QC Kinetics gives everyday folks joint pain relief using regenerative treatments that work with your body to help repair joint damage.
No surgery, no long recovery, whether it's your knees, hips, shoulders, or back. My friends at QC Kinetics will help you get moving again so you can get back to doing the things you love.
QC Kinetics medical professionals will look at your x-rays or MRI to determine if you're a good candidate.
I trusted QC Kinetics to help me feel like myself again, and I'm proud to recommend them to you.
Call QC Kinetics today and schedule your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. 312-827-6261.
America turns 250 this year, and Lieutenant Colonel Alan West is coming to the Chicago area to help celebrate. Thursday, July 9th at Chevy Chase Country Club in Wheeling, Illinois. Join an evening of patriotism, purpose, and our God-given right to bear arms. Dinner buffet and cash bar included. General admission is just $50. Want to meet Colonel West one-on-one? VIP reception tickets are $250. Go to faireramerica.ticketbud.com for tickets. This is your America. Celebrate her.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Crosscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Crosscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business. Even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Crosscom.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Crosscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Crosscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Giving your liver a spring cleaning is easy with Active Liver from New Nordic. Search for Active Liver by New Nordic on Amazon, CVS, Wegmans, or GNC.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a breezy morning giving way to pleasant conditions with some sunshine peeking through. The high will reach 72. Tonight will bring a crystal clear sky with a low of 55. Looking ahead to tomorrow, anticipate partly sunny skies and continued pleasant weather with a high of 76. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Did you see the videos online last week of Pride festivities in Oak Park? All the kindergartners waving the Pride flag, being treated to a drag queen story hour in the classroom that was egged on by the drag queen, egged on by the teacher, and they're all dancing around. They've got their flags, and then they take to the streets, including with their parents, and they're all waving their flags. They've all got their flags. If you like that, you'll love this tribute to fatherhood the New York Times offered over the weekend. It's fun because it was a comic essay, cartoons. The cartoonist, I guess, is an editor and motion designer from London. So this is a trans man who's a dad. He characterizes himself, or she characterizes herself this way. So it's just this cartoon essay. Very easy to read. Just about the reading comp level of the average New York Times subscriber. It's perfect. Are there going to be pictures? Yeah, don't worry. You need a thick skin to be a parent. I've been living as a trans man since I was 18 years old. But when my wife and I had Elliot, I had to learn how to be a trans dad. Elliot's her daughter. The girl identifying as a guy. The female dad. And, the cartoon, how did you grow a mustache if you were a lady? These are the things she had to learn. She had to learn as a he, masquerading as a he, and a dad. I wasn't out to everyone as trans, but with Elliot, I had to learn how to talk about it. And then she shows a picture of her, the next cartoon, as a woman, and her daughter says, oh, you look really different. Yeah, you look cool. Then or now? Then, the daughter said. I had to trust her with the most vulnerable version of myself. And the caption, the bubble quote above the daughter's head. I told my friends at school that mom made you a cake when you got your surgery. And she says, Mom, Dad, oh, right, that's nice, but I don't actually tell everyone I'm trans. I save that for special people. And the daughter says, oh, don't worry, I didn't tell them you were trans. Kids, they're so innocent. Back to the would-be dad. I carried shame around my whole life. I didn't want to pass that on to my daughter. And then you've got a picture of the daughter hanging upside down in the jungle gym. I want to grow a beard when I grow up. And then another kid says to her, you can't grow a beard. You're a girl. And she says, my dad did, and he was a girl. But kids can accept things at face value. And there's a cartoon of the daughter in a bakery, and she's pointing to an eclair, and she puts her hand over the E and says, my dad used to be called that. Claire. Isn't that cute? They can move between complex topics, writes the mom/dad. How long did you have breasts for, Dad? Yeah. Real coming-of-age conversation with your dad. It's usually us adults that complicate matters, she writes. The more I've watched Elliot embrace who she is, moving through the world and with her wild and free spirit and her sense of humor, the more I've learned to embrace who I am. Oh, I see. It's actually the daughter who's teaching the dad impersonator. Isn't that a surprising turnabout? I thought I was teaching Elliot how to be happy and secure, yet all along she had been doing that for me. Maybe I'll be like you when I grow up, dad impersonator. Oh, yeah? Yeah, really short. Ha, 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 the end. And everybody lived happily ever after. And this is of a certain kind the New York Times presents on fatherhood. Matt Taibbi, no man of the right, posting some of the screenshots of recent commentaries the New York Times has published on the topic of fatherhood. They include, My father failed me. Here's how I learned to forgive him. My father's death was the start of my life. The pain of caring for a parent who abused you. And dads get postpartum depression too. Yeah, particularly when they're girls. Greg in Rogers Park here in Chicago's Morning Answer.
Morning, Dan. Dan, here in Chicago, Cardinal Supridge, the current priest, Bishop Sullivan, and most of the priests did not push back against this stuff. Now, you go down to Springfield, Bishop Procky will. You go over to Fort Wayne, South Bend, Bishop Rhodes will. But you get total silence about normal family life and the spirit of how to really live and honor sexuality is not being done up here. And yesterday being Father's Day, the perfect day where St. Joseph should be honored as a father and a model figure, and instead you get more worried about treating the immigrants right, bashing Trump, and everything else. But like I said, you go to South Bend or Springfield, you do have bishops that push back. So thanks for your hard work, and God bless you.
Thanks for the call, Greg. George, Naperville.
Yes, Dan, Father Knows Best has been replaced by Trans Knows Best.
Trans Father Knows Best. Yes. Thanks for the call, George. Marty, Forest Park.
Hey, Dan. Forest Park had their own Pride Fest on June 5th, was reported on in the Forest Park Review on the 10th, included a pictorial essay. One of the pictures showed a trans person or drag queen dressed in a bikini top, garter belt, and bodysuit with a 4 or 5 year old child handing them $1 or handing them money.
Oh yeah, no, that's part that's part of the celebration, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I wrote a letter to the editor in the Forest Park Review. It's got posted on the Forest Park Town Hall. You wouldn't believe the rash of hate that I got over that letter for merely suggesting that the Village of Forest Park establish guidelines for so-called family-friendly events. It's unbelievable what the reaction was to my request for guidelines for family-friendly drag or pride events.
Yeah,
unreal.
Yeah, I can imagine what that was. I mean, I perfectly understand the level of sentimental barbarism that exists in places like Oak Park, Forest Park, Park Ridge, all the parks. Park Ridge had a big fete of drag queens and trans, got the kids out there waving the flags, proper indoctrination. Anybody want to talk about the incidents of sexual exploitation, in terms of both victims and perpetrators within the celebrated trans community? How many people who identify as trans have sexual victimization in their backgrounds? They've been victims of sexual abuse. And I know when we talk about violence and trans, it's always that they're trans are somehow under assault by white heterosexual males or something. They're to be victims of violence, and that's just not true. But the converse is often not talked about. Trans individuals, people identifying as trans who commit crimes, particularly of a sexual nature. For example, just recently, this is just one example. Male politician credited with being the first openly trans person elected to a state legislature, this is in New Hampshire, has been sentenced to 33 years in prison for child sexual exploitation. First charged in 2023 after a police department in Nashua, New Hampshire, received a report that he had sent child sexual abuse images to another individual. That individual brought the images to police, confirmed that this former state legislator sent the images, and so on and so forth, and the arrest and prosecution followed. It's sort of like talking about the incidence of sexual abuse of children in government schools. It's a small, it's relatively infrequent occurrence, but a small percentage of a big number of kids being abused turns out to be a big problem. Actually, any kid being abused is a big problem, but in terms of it being systemic, the research that suggests perhaps more than 1 in 10 high school students, government high school students, will be sexually assaulted by an adult in the system. Well, when there's 50 million kids in government schools, K through 12, 1 in 10 turns out to be 5 million. That's a big number, isn't it? Big problem? We don't treat it like one. So I'm not saying that trans is synonymous with either having been a victim of sexual abuse or being a perpetrator of sexual abuse. But there's a heightened incidence. And I understand, you have to explain those who identify who don't do it as much as you have to identify those in the category who do it, which is, complicated. But there are issues there because obviously people who are identifying as trans, I would argue, are suffering from gender dysphoria. They have a mental affliction that should be treated with compassion, but not celebrated. And if you cross the line of criminality, certainly, but even propriety, like dancing around children half naked, then you're forcing us to have to deal with it. Or you should be forcing us to have to deal with it. Some want to celebrate it. I prefer to deal with it and say, well, that's across the line of propriety. And then, then I'm a transphobe and so on and so forth. I can take the name calling. It's just sad that so many adults can't. Corey in Woodlawn.
Hey, morning, Dan. One of my biggest problems is that these cities are posting record deficits, and yet they've got money to waste on mess like this. This doesn't make any sense to me. And these men, I'm sorry, they're taking it too far. I mean, it's like the guy that went to the White House and pulled down his shirt to show kids his breast.
Yeah.
They've always taken it too far.
They always do.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I mean, these parades, these drag queen story hours. I mean, the incident Marty from Forest Park talking about, like putting dollar bills in the garter belt of some dude, some half-naked dude pretending to be like a drag queen, stripper queen, whatever the hell it is. What? How is that fun for your kid? What, really? I mean, there's, some countercultural programming. It was nice to see the Rangers, Texas Rangers, that is. The only major league team that does not have a Pride Night. Interesting. They also, in addition to not having a Pride Night, they celebrated fatherhood by allowing the players' kids to join them on the field for the national anthem during the Father's Day game yesterday. So there is this common sense counter-revolution that's occurring simultaneous to the identitarian revolution. But just because things have become a little bit more muted and there's a little bit less corporate money flowing to these identitarian rackets like Pride, like BLM, don't think that we counter-revolutionaries have definitively won the war. It is very much still in doubt.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
If you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Last year, Mitch, 50, railroad worker, income 100 G's a year, score 630, called to consolidate his debt with a cash-out refinance. Team Hochberg loan officer Johnny Hendrickson helped Mitch pay off his debt and save $800 a month. Johnny called Mitch for a 6-month post-closing checkup and informed him his credit score was now over 700. Then Johnny helped Mitch lower his rate, remove the PMI, and save him another $400 a month while covering all his closing costs. Let's review. Team Hochberg loan officer Johnny Hendrickson helped Mitch eliminate his debt, save $1,200 a month, and improve his scores over 100 points. Team Hochberg's helped thousands of radio listeners, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit that website you know you love, 56david.com. Atlantic Coast Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 643114.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 6:06, we'll talk to Breitbart News' Joel Pollack about the state of negotiations with the Iranians. They don't seem to be turning over that new leaf as quickly as J.D. Vance suggested they might. Doesn't seem to me. The latest from Lucerne, 6:06. It's now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Britain is going to get a new prime minister. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision.
Keir Starmer will step down, though not immediately, as his party works to pick a new leader and prime minister, potentially new parliament member Andy Burnham, who will seek the office. Fox's Jeff Paul reports from London.
Starmer has faced economic pressure as well as criticism for his handling of illegal immigration and the appointment of former Jeffrey Epstein friend Peter Mandelson as U.S. ambassador. He also experienced a souring relationship with the White House after the U.K. didn't join in on the Iran war. President Trump yesterday writing this on social media. He failed badly on two very important subjects, immigration and energy.
The president also threatened to bomb Iran again over the weekend. At times, there were tense talks between the U.S. and Iran with mediators in Switzerland. Vice President Vance was there, saying the initial deal will prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon as negotiations continue for 60 days.
The Iranians also acknowledged major progress in the talks, adding that a deconfliction cell for Lebanon will be the first real test of the understanding. Israel and Hezbollah did not trade fire on Sunday for the first time since March 2nd. In response, Israel lifted all restrictions for civilians in the northern part of the country. In a call with Fox News on Sunday, President Trump said he was disappointed Israel can't put Hezbollah away.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv, now to Washington, where President Trump says work will begin immediately fixing the reflecting pool. He claims it was seriously vandalized. Writing on Truth Social, who would do such a thing? U.S. Attorney for D.C. Janine Pirro tells Fox they'll prosecute those issued citations.
Look, the president has made it a priority to make D.C. not only safe but beautiful.
That pool has turned green, filled with algae, after a company the president hired painted the bottom of the pool dark blue, but some of that paint's peeled off, seen floating in the pool. America's listening to Fox News. 59 degrees this morning at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. I'm Mike Scott in the QC Kinetics newsroom. At least 36 have been shot, 7 fatally in shootings across Chicago so far. A 21-year-old man was fatally shot Sunday morning on the city's south side. 3 were shot at a large gathering in the Lawndale neighborhood Saturday night in the 1400 block of South Christina. And police investigators are also probing a mass shooting that left more than a dozen people hurt on the south side Friday night in the 200 block of West 95th. A 24-year-old man is accused of driving from Georgia to meet with a teen girl in Lake County. Jordy Ferret Perez made plans to meet with the 14-year-old who was reported missing from her home near Gurnee. The pair found nearby in the Independence Grove Forest Preserve. On Sunday, the last J.C. Penney in Chicago shut down for good, along with the Ford City Mall.
I feel like this should be a busier mall. I mean, it doesn't feel like it should be closing down.
Cook County judge's signature brought an end to the Ford City's mall's 61-year run along Cicero Avenue when the judge made an emergency order to vacate that mall. Back in May, a Chicago-based developer wants to build a warehouse and logistics facility on the plot. Local residents are pushing for a park or a YMCA. Elgin police are investigating after a woman's body was pulled from the Fox River in the river north of Kimball Street and the bridge. Woman's identity and cause of death have not yet been released. Chicago sports. Chicago's professional rugby team achieved a historic milestone, a national championship, decided at SeatGeek Stadium in the southwest suburbs on Sunday. The Hounds also capping an undefeated season at 12-0. The White Sox on a 3-game losing skid following a loss to the Tigers. Cubs and Blue Jays wiped out by rain. Wyndham Clark wins the U.S. Open at Shinnecock Hills. The news service of the AM 560 Advantage, where membership has its privileges, and you can join today. 560theanswer.com/join. A check of the roads comes your way in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher explains the new feel of politics.
Everybody is on edge. Everybody's tense. Everybody recognizes there's something different this year. I understand why it's different now. The left is playing by a whole different set of rules. They are starting to openly declare what needs to be done with more than half of the country.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hello, this is Kevin Coyne, Chairman of the DuPage County GOP, inviting you to join us for our second annual summer kickoff and celebration of America's 250th birthday. Our event will be in Addison at American Tap on June 24th. Doors will open at 6:30 p.m. And we will hear from our new Illinois GOP Chairman, Bob Grogan, State Senator Seth Lewis, and State Representative Jennifer Santilitro. We'll also have a special appearance from former Cubs pitching great Steve Trout. Tickets are $75 and can be purchased in advance at our website, DuPageGOP.com. Paid for by DuPage County Republican Central Committee.
Buy gold and put some silver in your pocket. I know what you're thinking. Everything's expensive right now. How am I going to buy gold? It's Ron Paul. Nowadays, a lot of things are out of your control, but there is something you can do right now to diversify your retirement, and it doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. My friends at Birch Gold Group will help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, a time-tested hedge against inflation. Plus, in honor of America 250, Birch Gold is going to give you a special America 250 you purchase by July 2nd. Text the word SHELTER to the number 9898 Birch Gold and claim eligibility for this limited time offer. Again, text the word SHELTER today.
Chicago businesses. Your phone, internet, and IT should work well 24/7. Overseas Help Desk? If you want clear, reliable local experts, IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backup, Access One is Chicago-owned, Chicago-run, and serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore and everywhere in between. We're rated top 5 A+ rated business and trusted by law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. Let's talk about making 41555 or visit AccessOneInc.com. That's AccessOneInc.com.
Have you ever wondered, with all the different religions and interpretations of the Bible, how you can be sure? The powerful new book, You and God by Peter Philippi, helps you answer this question and with God through biblical understanding and faith. Get your copy of You and God by Peter Philippi. That's pbmusa.org.
Picture warm Gulf breezes. The media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn this November. 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
6:08, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Stop and go on the Kennedy outbound between Canfield and I-190 heading to the airport this morning. Accident DuSable Lakeshore Drive northbound right at the Oak Street curve. And delays in Glendale Heights this morning with an accident, Army Trail and Gladstone. Traffic, a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Download the app, 560theanswer.com/mobile. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, your forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a breezy morning giving way to pleasant conditions with some sunshine peeking through. The high will reach 72. Tonight will bring a crystal clear sky with a low of 55. Looking ahead to tomorrow, anticipate partly sunny skies and continued pleasant weather with a high of 76. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. And right now, Vice President J.D. Vance is taking questions at the Lake Lucerne Summit Confab in Switzerland, trying to hammer out a formal settlement between the United States and the Iranians that necessarily includes Israel, Lebanon, the Gulf states. A lot of moving parts. So over the weekend, Israel launched retaliatory strikes into southern Lebanon, which led Iran to walk away from the table, which led Trump to threaten to blow up their country, which led to hard feelings at the negotiating table. Leaving the negotiation venue, the Iranians altogether. But then officials from Pakistan and Qatar later resumed their mediation. And in a statement early today, Qatar and Pakistan said that the line of communication between Iran and the U.S. has been formed to avoid such incidents and enable safe passage for commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. Some fits and starts, I guess, to be expected, but this was Trey Yingst, Fox News, reporting on the tumult over the weekend.
President Trump telling Fox News that the U.S. may take over the strait in the future if they have to and collect tolls. The president described this as the United States being the guardian angel of the Strait of Hormuz and the Middle East. And the president said ultimately that would involve the U.S. taking 20% of the oil that passes through the strait. Remember, this comes in reaction to the Iranians saying they will close the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israeli strikes against Hezbollah in Lebanon. President Trump tells Fox News he spoke with Iranian officials overnight and said, you close it and you won't have a country. He went on to tell these officials, you won't even make it back to your effing country.
Uh-huh. Well, I don't know what currency the tough talk has with the Iranians at this point. I've heard a lot of tough talk over the last 7 weeks. And, opinions vary on the topic, but it seems like a summit that was supposed to deal with Iran's nuclear ambitions is now mainly focused on Israel's security concerns versus Iran's interests in allowing Hezbollah free reign over southern Lebanon with the ability to hammer Israel as best they can. Oh, and then there's this additional complication. The president of Iran, Pezeshkian, basically announced that Iran retains the right to enrich uranium, and he wasn't limiting it to domestic energy concerns.
Now, earlier today, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian said this about Iranian enrichment of uranium. The president also reacting to that. Take a listen.
We will not give up our right to enrichment, and they, too, will be forced to accept it. You all know what the so-called President of the United States was saying. He had made a complete 100-degree turn.
President Trump responding to that. Again, this is Trey Yingst reporting, Fox News.
During our call, responded directly to those comments by Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. President Trump told Fox News he better watch his mouth, he better shape up, or we'll take over the rest of the country.
Yeah, big talk from both sides. Lindsey Graham on Face the Nation yesterday discussing his time with President Trump on Friday, what he thinks will happen if a deal is not reached. And he's pretty skeptical that a deal will be reached, which may be indicative of Trump's growing skepticism. Hard to say.
Let's try a diplomatic solution. I think it's going to fail. What happens next? I spent 4.5 hours with President Trump Friday. Here's what I think will happen next. If this deal fails, President Trump is going to take the Strait of Hormuz over by force. The United States will control the Strait of Hormuz. We'll charge a fee for all those who go through to pay for the operation. And we're going to expand the Abraham Accords in calendar year 2026. We're going to get Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords, and which is the biggest change in 5,000 years in the Mideast. And if Iran contests control of the Strait of Hormuz by the United States, we will obliterate them. So to all the people listening, if this diplomatic effort fails, President Trump is going to take the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah. We're going to run it. We're going to try to get Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords to end the Arab-Israeli conflict in 2026. And if Iran continues to attack Israel and Lebanon, the new policy will be we'll hit Iran. So to the Iranians, if you're listening, when you use Hezbollah to attack Israel, I think the new policy will be we will attack Iran.
For more on all this, Joel Pollack, opinion editor at the California Post, joins us. Joel, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
So you've been, fairly sanguine about this deal, and at least in its MOU form, and then a little bit of from reading your posts on X a little bit over the weekend, a little bit of back and forth as the Iranians walked away and then came back. So what's your net of the events of this weekend?
Nobody knows anything.
Okay.
That's my conclusion.
Okay. Yeah. Right. That's it.
The only thing that matters is that the Israeli military is not going to leave Lebanon, and there's nothing Trump can do about it, and there's nothing the Iranians can do about it. The only people with real concrete interests at stake are the Israelis, because they are being attacked by Hezbollah terrorists. So it doesn't really matter what is discussed in Switzerland as far as that reality.
Well, right, and I mean, sorry to interrupt on this too, but also, isn't it a bit strange to have a summit meeting where you're going to talk about a ceasefire in Lebanon between Israel and Hezbollah, and the those parties are not represented at the table?
Well, it's strange on the one hand because, yes, we have seen these negotiations before where the U.S. and Iran and various other countries meet to decide issues that will largely affect Israel's security, and Israel is not represented. I mean, the Americans basically represent Israel, but there's a downside to that for Israel, which is that they have to do whatever Trump says. And, in fact, they have been doing more or less what the Americans have allowed them to do. But the reality is that the Israelis fundamentally understand that they are responsible for their own security. And so I think that reality is dawning on J.D. Vance and on Trump. I think Trump and Vance tried to use peace in Lebanon as a negotiating bargaining chip, and were told by Netanyahu that that's not happening. Mm-hmm. And it's not a question of who's in charge or whatever. The Americans are in charge. But the Israelis are not going to allow Hezbollah back into a position where they can threaten northern Israel. I mean, they are threatening northern Israel, but they're not going to cede the idea that Hezbollah can just establish its presence again in southern Lebanon and continue its military buildup. It's just never going to happen. So if Israel has to defy the Trump administration, they're going to do that. And I think that's sort of slowly dawning. I mean, you saw yesterday Trump saying that Hezbollah had to cut it out, which is a shift, right? Because he's been attacking Israel. He and Vance have been criticizing Israel. Vance especially. I mean, I think his words were particularly ugly, unusually ugly for such a close ally. But I think they tried to basically push Israel to make concessions to allow this deal to happen, and then realized what Israel was saying was correct, which is that Israel is not the problem. I mean, Israel would not be in Lebanon had Hezbollah not attacked Israeli villages. And so the Israelis are saying, look, we have this territory we're occupying in Lebanon right now. It's the high ground, physically the high ground, which is the key issue. And we're not going to give it up because we keep finding bases and underground weapons caches and all kinds of things. And we're not going to let the Iranians just rearm this terrorist group. So you guys can decide whatever you want in Switzerland. It's just not happening. And, I think that's dawning on the American team. Who knows, though? Like, nobody really knows if a deal is possible anymore because the Iranians are being given what I thought was a pretty good deal. And I thought it actually could be a good deal for the United States, as you point out. I mean, $300 billion of investment in Iran. It's great for Iran. It's probably good for us as well because if we can control the direction of that investment, we can make sure that Iran develops in a certain way. We can help grow the Iranian economy so that it becomes much bigger than what the terrorist supporting state of Iran has been running up until now. But if Iran walks away from that, I mean, what do? You basically have to say, okay, the regime is the problem. I mean,
Yes, as if that was an unknown up until this point. I mean, just to put some point of order on what you mentioned, this Hezbollah terror tunnel that Israel just unearthed, 200-meter long tunnel discovered by the 51st 51st Reserve Brigade, 550, whatever, by the Israelis, contained 20 terrorists who were eliminated, 4 launch shafts, dozens of drones, some of which can reach deep into Israeli territory. I mean, so and significant weapons caches and strategic positions by these terrorist groups to commit the acts of terrorism that they commit, which is why Bibi Netanyahu at the Jewish News Syndicate Summit had this to say about the Israeli presence in southern Lebanon, as you just mentioned.
As long as we need to protect our people, we will remain in the security zone in South Lebanon. And the reason is perfectly understood. No country would be asked to do otherwise. Now, you imagine the United States. Across the border, you have thousands, an army of thousands of terrorists who pellet your cities and your towns with rockets and ballistic missiles and killer drones. They kill your soldiers, they kill your citizens, they kill your children, and they threaten them every day. Well, what would America do? Would it say, well, there's nothing we can do? Let's hold our fire? Is that what America would say? No. You know damn well what America would do. It would cross the border, create a security zone, kill the terrorists, and protect its people until the threat is removed. That's exactly what we are doing.
I think it's a pretty good analogy he uses in terms of what would America do if this was the situation. Actually, Bruce Pearl, the former basketball coach of Auburn, said the same thing. If you were having rockets lobbed into Detroit by terrorists in Toronto, what would America do? Say, have a third party come in and negotiate some sort of armistice or take out the threat?
Well, let's just back up for a second. So the key point in that news dispatch you read about the discovery of the tunnel was that it was discovered by a reserve brigade. What is a reserve brigade in the Israeli military? The entire adult male population of Israel between the ages of 21 and 45 is in the military reserves, which means people do their duty a couple of days a month, several weeks a year. And in a time of war, they get called up for months at a time. So you're talking about husbands, fathers, sons, people leaving their jobs, people leaving their communities to go and fight in Lebanon. They are fighting this war in a way that's very hard for us to relate to because we do not have that level of exposure to combat. I mean, if that were happening here, you and I might be at the front and not talking on a radio show. So it's a war that Israelis have been fighting in a very intimate way, and they're not going to be told that they can't secure their homes from these terrorists who are sitting on a mountaintop. Again, if you go to Israel, what you can see is that the border of Lebanon is an arbitrary line, and the Lebanese mountains are higher than the Israeli terrain. That's the provocation, in a sense, because it becomes easy from those mountains to fire down on the Israeli towns in the valley below. And that's why Israel has taken those mountains, because after quiet on the border for many decades, since the 2007 conflict, really for 2 decades, Hezbollah joined Hamas in attacking Israeli villages and firing drones and rockets and everything, and those towns had to be evacuated. And so the Israeli military has had to go into Lebanon to clear out the Hezbollah terrorists, and it's done a pretty good job, but there's a lot more to do. They're not going to give that up. I mean, this is something that, just think about it. If you and your neighbors had gone into a terrorist hellhole, risked your lives, maybe never seeing your families again, and you had fought to discover these tunnels and kill these terrorists and face drone attacks and rockets and everything that would come along with it, and bullets and everything, are you going to go and just give that up? Are you going to go home and say, well, Trump said that we're going to give up this territory that we fought for to protect our families? You're not going to do that. So I think J.D. Vance and Trump were very glib in kind of dismissing this idea that Israel was going to have to win in Lebanon. And it's been the American policy for many years that Hezbollah is an obstacle to the development of the Lebanese state. So we want Hezbollah out of there so we can develop a strong, united Lebanon. And
so do the Lebanese.
Right. And so where Trump and J.D. Vance were going with this was saying, well, maybe we can sort of accept some kind of ceasefire and let Hezbollah stay there for now so we can get the broader deal. Maybe if the broader deal were really good and Iran was playing ball. But Iran is not playing ball. So now you're basically running against America's defined national security interest in having a strong Lebanese state because you're allowing Iran to maintain its terrorist proxy there. Look, this is basically a successful war, but like many wars, we are at risk of losing peace because we are not. We have a lot of challenges in this negotiation. The most profound challenge is actually not even a foreign challenge. The most profound challenge is the domestic policy situation here in the United States, where Democrats have been completely opposed to this war. There's a midterm election coming up. They are nominating crazy candidates. I mean, actually crazy people with Nazi tattoos and who support terrorists. And I mean, we have never seen a more extremist group of candidates. Even the moderates, the once moderates, are becoming extreme to run in this midterm election and position themselves ahead of 2028. So Trump is facing this unique challenge domestically where he has to get through this election. It is possible Republicans will retain both houses of Congress, but it is going to be very difficult. And you can't do that if gas prices are still high and people are worried about inflation. So he's had to manage that. He also has to manage the Arab states who want to fight and defeat Iran, but also don't want to be seen as being too close to Israel and maybe don't have the ability to defend themselves the way Israel does, and so they're more exposed when Iran fires missiles at them. They can't exactly shoot all of them down or fight back, and so Trump is basically hurting all these cats.
Yeah, I know, but you know what builds consensus is leadership. And instead of trying to placate everybody, you need to pick a position and execute it. Pick a position that's well considered and execute it. And I'm a little I'm so much confused on this. Particularly the recent talk about the Strait, all the jawboning after Iran was playing games. They closed the strait. No, they didn't close the strait because they don't have the capacity to close the strait. Okay, well, if they don't have the capacity to close the strait, then why didn't we take it? If they don't play ball, if they leave the negotiating table, then we're going to take the strait. We're going to impose tolls. We're going to take 20% of the oil. Okay, well, if we can do that, then why didn't we already do it? What is all this dithering with this group that you understand exactly who they are, exactly the games they've been playing, despite J.D. Vance's absurd rhetoric about turning over a new leaf and realizing the last 47 years of their posture towards America was a mistake. Why don't you finish the deal as it's been argued?
Because finishing the deal would require a level of military commitment that the American public doesn't support at the moment. So what Trump is doing and what J.D. Vance is doing generally is maybe the best strategy. Maybe it's better not to have a clear set of objectives and a clear plan, and maybe it's better to continue in this ambiguous way, at least through the midterm elections, because if you adopt a clear plan for invading Iran and knocking over the regime, which is what some people, including myself, would be amenable to, you're asking for a level of military commitment before a midterm election that may not fly. And so, the thing is not to accept a bad deal. You don't have to get the best deal right now. Look at the historical precedent here. We had to fight wars against these Barbary states 250 years ago almost, near the start of the nation, where these Islamic caliphates were seizing American ships and demanding tribute. I mean, a very similar situation. And we fought one war, and then we concluded a very weak peace. It was very weak, and you might even say that the Barbary states won. But we got our Navy out there. We fought some victories, and then we weren't strong enough to drive the thing to completion. But we had a second Barbary War, which did finally finish off the threat. That may be a situation like the one we're facing now. And I think that what Trump is trying to do is find some accommodation that gets him through the election, because, frankly, the Democrats are Iran's best asset right now. And then once the election is over, then you decide the direction this is going to take and finish it one way or the other. But the one group of people that is dealing with a reality that is just concrete and is immovable, again, is the Israelis. They're not going to leave Lebanon, not while Hezbollah is still there. So I think Trump and J.D. Vance are starting to realize there are some boundaries to how much ambiguity and how much you can promise and all that.
Yeah.
I do hope Vance changes his rhetoric. I think he is unduly influenced by the imaginary hordes of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens devotees online who seem to think that Israel is the reason for every problem. I've talked to some of the J.D. Vance people, and they think that's a real political force that they have to somehow cultivate. I think it's a bunch of keyboard commandos who don't represent any constituency and are, in it for the laughs and the entertainment, but they're not really anything in particular.
I would agree with that, but I would also say, even to the extent they are, they should be given no quarter. I mean, whether they represent some political constituency that's 1%, 5%, 10%, I really don't care. That sort of nonsense and ignorance cannot be given any quarter, in my view. And I think I'm appalled by the way that J.D. Vance has, not just on the question of Israel, but I'm appalled with what I've seen from him over the last week. I mean, I know he's a smart guy and he's a good communicator. None of that has been demonstrated over the last week, in my view.
So the thing that he needed to do when it came to disagreements with Israel, and it's understandable that we'd have some because we have different interests, they are exposed in a very direct way to some of these threats. We are not. We have to look at the bigger picture. They might not be able to. I think he should have said, instead of, well, we're the only friend you have, and so therefore you have to be nicer to us, or whatever he said. I would start from his own experience as a soldier and say, listen, I've been in combat. I know what it's like to put your life on the line, and I know how Israelis are feeling because they've had to risk everything for their security, and they want it to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
In a war, everything means something. You lose friends, you want those sacrifices to accomplish something and not just go unnoticed or just have people die in vain. I know that. I know where you are. At the same time, you guys are so close to the action that we need to step back together and see the bigger picture. You might want to do things a certain way, but we are trying to get a better deal for everybody. And so trust President Trump's leadership. That's how I would have said it, instead of this kind of condescending, hectoring lectures, which are designed to impress, these yahoos online, and they don't actually impress anyone in the real world. They drive a wedge between Israel and Iran, a kind of Obama-style wedge, which is how we got here in the first place. Between Israel and the United States against Iran. I mean,
well, and also, that the chumminess with the Qataris and the Pakistanis, and and the statement. In addition to those statements, they don't get you any currency with the IRGC or any of their intermediaries or any of their proxies. You're not winning it. You're not gonna have a charm and cash is not what is going to end this favorably for the United States, and that's the way J.D. Vance comes off as thinking to me so far. Joel Pollack, opinion editor at the California Post. Joel, good to talk to you as always. Thank you.
You too.
And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. It's news, opinion, and insight at the speed of your life. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
Skies have cleared out. Sunshine right now, 59 degrees in the QC Kinetics newsroom. At least 36 people have been shot, 7 fatally in shootings across Chicago so far over the weekend. Police investigators are probing a mass shooting that left more than a dozen hurt on Chicago's South Side Friday night. Talks between the U.S. and Iran will continue in Switzerland this week. A statement from the two countries went on to say discussions brought encouraging progress. Meantime, Energy Secretary Chris Wright says the flow of oil through the Strait of Hormuz is getting back to normal.
Flows of oil and natural gas through the straits have already returned to normal, and they will continue that way, whatever happens with the negotiations with the Iranians.
His comments come amid uncertainty surrounding that vital waterway. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is stepping down 2 years after a landslide election victory. What happens next? Rival Andy Burnham may be the leading candidate to replace him, according to the BBC.
But in 2017, he quit Westminster and was elected Greater Manchester Mayor, the first of 3 thumping victories. As Mayor, he brought the area's bus services back under public control. Burnham's profile and popularity soared during the pandemic, railing against the government at Westminster.
This is no way to run the country in a national crisis.
With Labour back in power, Andy Burnham hovered, facing endless questions about his number 10 ambition.
In other news we're following this morning, a 24-year-old man is accused of driving from Georgia to meet with a teen girl in Lake County. Jordi Ferrete Perez was arrested on charges including solicitation of child pornography. Elgin police are investigating after a woman's body was pulled from the Fox River north of the Kimball Street Bridge. And 2 died in a crash involving a motorcycle and a small SUV late Saturday afternoon in Schaumburg at Gulf and Commons Drive. 2 have died due to strong storms Sunday in southern Illinois. Jefferson County Sheriff Jeff Bullard confirmed the deaths near the town of Dix, which sits along I-57 between Salem and Mount Vernon. White Sox lost to the Tigers 5-4. Cubs and Blue Jays rained out. North Carolina beat Oklahoma 6-2 to force a decisive Game 3 in the Men's College World Series. The news, a service of the AM 560 mobile app, and we'll have a check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Alex Marlow hopes Musk will keep helping.
What will he do with his trillions? And it'd be pretty cool if he stayed in the political realm and started to fund a lot of stuff, because we need so much help. We need so much help on the right. I really want to make a big list of all the billionaire funders who are ruining the country, but we need to get our own, because that's the system, it's the way it works. So hopefully Musk stays on Team MAGA.
The Alex Marlow Show, afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Platform safety is critical at your commercial and industrial facility. Keeping people safe and meeting OSHA requirements isn't optional. That's why Vans Industrial offers free platform inspections by professional structural engineers who know exactly what to look for. Problems with platforms, ladders, or stairs can lead to costly fines or worse. Vans Industrial helps you meet OSHA standards to protect people in your facility.
Hi, I'm Dave Van Camp, president of Vans Industrial.
With decades of experience, I bring long-standing industry knowledge from inspecting, correcting, and replacing countless platforms to make facilities safer. Vans Industrial is a specialty contractor equipped to modify or replace steel catwalks, handrails, stairways, and ladders. Our union building trades professionals fabricate and install high-quality steel systems that create safer work environments.
Call 833-VANS-IND for a free platform inspection by professional structural engineers. See what else we can do for you. Visit vansindustrial.com. That's VANS Industrial.com.
For months, you've been hearing ads about Virago Immune Support. I have to tell you, this stuff is for real. I had an occasion to not be feeling well on a remote broadcast. I took it, and it is the real deal. And the stronger your immune system, the stronger your body defends against diseases, viruses, and everything else. That's why Dr. Huber created Virago, a liquid immune booster supplement. You take it daily. It's a blend of 23 nutraceuticals working in synergy to maximize effects and boost your immune system. It's the nutraceutical cocktail for an immune system, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. Virago even protects your heart, your kidneys, your liver, all in a unique liquid supplement for better absorption. Do yourself and your spouse a favor. Order a bottle of Virago today online at myvirago.com. That's myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Maha and Virago, making America healthy again.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Amazon Business. Unlock smart business buying with fast, free delivery on millions of items and practical AI innovations that automate repetitive tasks. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
641 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Capital One. Earn unlimited double miles on every purchase with the Capital One Venture X Business Card. The Capital One Venture X Business Card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. CapitalOne.com for details. Lombard and accident, Finley and 22nd. Accident on the Veterans, I-355 northbound, right at Maple. DuSable Lakeshore Drive, cleaning up an accident northbound in the Oak Street curve. Bishop Ford, an accident on the off-ramp to 130th. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. In our Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center, breezy this morning, turning sunny and pleasant. A late day high of 74.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So before we have another analyst on, which we will have Stephen Bucci at the top of the 7 o'clock hour, I want to give people a chance to chime in on this, too. Also provide a little bit more evidentiary backup to the characterization I made of J.D. Vance's performance over the last week, which I will provide. I make the case. I'll make my case. And we'll take your comments. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com. A call and text line. And this is not to say that I think all is lost and things are forlorn, even though I have problems with this MOU, and even more so with the approach, and even more so with the approach of the point man for the president on this, and that's J.D. Vance for now. It's not to say that that this is a hopeless situation, hardly. In point of fact, I don't very much disagree with something that Victor Davis Hanson wrote, which, I'm usually inclined to agree with VDH because he's a robust thinker, and he also makes the case. He makes his cases. Here's what he said, sort of real time. Trump didn't hand Iran a peace deal. He handed them a lit fuse and told them to go ahead and test it. That's the only honest way to read this memorandum. The paper itself is almost irrelevant. What actually matters is what happens the first time Iran cheats, because they will cheat. They always do. The regime in Tehran is already running the numbers on how far they can push before Trump decides the response has to hurt. Missiles into UAE or Kuwait? ? Enrichment at forbidden sites? ? Proxy attacks that kill Americans or allies? ? The second any of that happens, the entire agreement either becomes real or it becomes a joke. And the regime knows this. They're not stupid. They watched the last decade and learned that American deals often come with an expiration date measured in political convenience. They're betting that midterm pressure, oil prices, and domestic politics will make Trump hesitate when the first violation lands. If that bet is right, the whole thing collapses into another expensive timeout. If he answers the first serious breach with something ugly and disproportionate, bridges, grids, real economic damage, then the memorandum suddenly has teeth. That's the test. Not the signatures, not the press conference, not the diplomatic language about Lebanon and the Strait of Hormuz. The test is whether the first Iranian probe gets met with consequences severe enough that the regime decides the next one isn't worth it. Everything else is theater. The fuse is already burning. The only question left is who flinches when it reaches the end. 312-642-5600. AlphaWealthGroup.com, call and text line. Yeah, I think that's well said. But I mean, there's some issues with that. If you think that that it will be, whether the thing has teeth or it becomes a joke. Well, I mean, again, based on those domestic concerns that we were just talking about, Joel Pollack, midterm pressure, oil prices, domestic politics, generally speaking, trying to avoid the crazies from taking over, being the incremental benefit that neo-Marxists need to take over the House, maybe the Senate. Probably not the Senate, but regardless, to make things a lot more complicated, if not bring them to a screeching halt, is the point. That the idea that you get some sort of interim deal and you try to hold a status quo that is opaque, but it doesn't present the same political currency for the left that it currently does, that you can hold that for 5 months through the midterms. Well, the Iranians know that too. So they're going to be demanding the cash that's part of an MOU, because once the cash is unfrozen, once it's delivered, you're not going to be able to undeliver it, for example. And if you don't want escalation, then they'll poke around. I think that's right. I think VDH is good there. They'll poke around like the Iranian President Pezeshkian did over the weekend, saying we have every right to enrich uranium and go pound sand. Saying, where are you going to say that the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and then CENTCOM comes back, it's not closed because they don't have the ability to close, and commercial traffic's moving through, and then they say, well, it's open. But the whole point is the rhetorical game, because of the understanding that most, with the audience that Trump is dealing with, domestic audience, that most have a very surface knowledge of what's happening, pay passing attention, are not deep into this, have more pressing concerns that were regarding their own economic security. They don't see Iran as some imminent threat. They're not living and dying with the discussions that we have with military and geopolitical experts we have and others have in other shows and other news programs. So, I mean, again, there are terrorists. This is a terrorist state. These are malign actors. These are ideological extremists, but it doesn't mean they're stupid. They've been getting away with this racket for 47 years, which is why this chumminess, going back to J.D. Vance, is so intolerable. It's just such a bad look. And he keeps saying it. The most ridiculous things. It gets him no... It doesn't advance the flag against these Islamist goons any, and it makes him look ridiculous.
This is a historic meeting. Never before, outside of Islamabad and here, so outside the last few months, never before has the Iranian and American leadership met at such a high level. What the president has asked us to do is turn over a new leaf, to transform our relationship with the people of Iran and to extend an outstretched hand that says to the people of Iran that if your leadership is willing to give up being a driver of regional instability, if they are willing to give up nuclear weapons ambitions for the long term, then the United States is willing to fundamentally transform our relationship with that country. That is certainly our goal. We've already made great progress over just the last few hours, and I expect that we'll make additional progress in the hours to come.
Yeah, and then J.D. Vance went on to offer this.
If I can change,
Я думаю, что каждый тоже изменился сегодня.
and you can change,
Вы можете измениться.
everybody can change.
Yeah, there's translated for Putin there. I mean, really, the outstretched hand and great progress is being made. Turn over a new leaf. Please, stop it. It's the same thing with this, feting this Pakistani defense minister.
His field marshal in Pakistan, Asim Munir. I will say that since Field Marshal Munir welcomed us with the Prime Minister in Islamabad, I have joked that I have two very, very important people in my life, an Indian and a Pakistani. The Indian is my wife, and the Pakistani is Field Marshal Munir. And I've probably talked to Field Marshal Munir more than I've talked to anybody else over the last 3 months. Would not be here without his statesmanship. He is, of course, a great military leader, but I think he's shown himself to be a great diplomat. And, of course...
Really? Is that the same, the Jim Garrity over at National Review, is that the same Field Marshal Munir who, at a Pakistani-American community event in Tampa, Florida, said of Pakistan, we are a nuclear nation. If we are going to go down, we will take half the world down with us. Right. And these are the great brokers of peace in this process, the Pakistanis and the Qataris. J.D. Vance is coming across either incredibly cynical and transparently so. I mean, that was a very thorough exam. Did you find any polyps up there? Field Marshal Munir's backside, J.D.? Or incredibly naive and nervous, and I don't know which. But it's a bad look either way. Chris, Rogers Park.
Yeah, to your last point, JD is in a tough spot. I mean, he's got the toughest boss in the world, and he's on the stage. So, man, I would be nervous. Tell you that much. But yeah, I think I've been calling you like here and there on this thing, and my whole theory was that back in the winter, whenever this started, Trump was just kind of, okay with gas prices going up because he was just going to end this thing over the summer and gas prices are going to fall like a rock. And I was wrong about that. But now he's in a situation where he's just got to make decisions to just go for the lowest cost move at every point. And on the J.D. Vance thing, on the Israel comments, I kind of think that I think he went a little aggressive on that, like a lot aggressive. But we got to have independence. And this TikTok culture, I mean, it's real out there that like people are looking at Israel as, genocidal is not the right word, but like they're doing too much. And it's just, you got to understand that there's just the vast majority of people here are watching TikTok, and people are being very successful on TikTok at portraying Israel as a real bad actor. And to not acknowledge that, I think, would be a mistake.
Oh, no, I agree. Thanks for the call, Chris. No, I get that that's happening, but it's wrong. And, maybe I'm naive, but I expect of people who know better, particularly when, say, they're the Vice President of the United States, to say better. So, I mean, anybody can play down to the lowest common denominator to try to appease the ignorant. Well, J.D. Vance shouldn't do that. The president should do that. And I don't actually think the president is doing that. I think there's daylight here between J.D. Vance and President Trump vis-a-vis Israel. Certainly, rhetorically, there is. And the relationship he has with Bibi is one, as Huckabee said in that same Jewish News Syndicate summit that I played the clip from Bibi when we were talking to Joe Pollack. Huckabee was there, too. He gave a great speech, the U.S. ambassador to Israel. One of the points he made was the relationship that Trump has with Bibi is one like you have with a good friend, where you can strip away the pieties and pleasantries and just talk like, hey, look, you're messing up my jam here. And that's fine. And Bibi's going to say, well, listen, I got to protect my flank here and southern Lebanon. I mean, I can't have, and basically he probably said the same thing to the president that he said in that speech, which is, look, if terrorists on the other side of the Canadian border were lobbing rockets into American cities, what would you do? Right? You'd vaporize them. Well, that's what I got to do, but I got to do it in such a way because I've got, the world's media and most of the Western world as sort of reflexive antagonists here. They buy this propaganda that these Islamists spread, and the D.C. press corps, I repeat myself, Islamist sympathizers spread about genocide this and genocide that. So I got to take precautions that you would never take, that the U.S. military doesn't take when it comes to responding in kind. So they have that relationship. J.D. Vance and Bibi don't have that relationship. Yeah, I think it would be better if Rubio was riding point on this than Vance, based on performance. And maybe that says something about 28 as well. Ann on the north side.
I don't think it's funny you just brought up Marco Rubio. If you watch his facial expressions and body language, I don't think he's happy, and I prefer him to be a presidential candidate and a president in 2028 than Vance, so I'm kind of hoping this knocks Vance out. I think Marco Rubio is very sharp, and I think he's a much better candidate than Vance. And I am pro-Israel, by the way.
Thanks for the call in. Yeah, I think Vance is shrinking in the moment. Chet, Lyle.
Good morning, Dan. To the previous caller's point, Marco Rubio, Bueller.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, right. Yeah. Greg Schomburg.
Dan, I don't think Vance is the point. I think Trump is the point. What you're essentially advocating is that we need to put this thing to bed, and Trump needs to take firm stances on it. But I think Trump is going to eventually get to that point, but he has to build the case, unfortunately, to the country, who will step into the voting booth in November and essentially be making a decision between the Democrats and the Republicans, and the Democrats wanting to cave and take the world in a totally different direction. So what he's basically doing is going to the Pope Leos of the world and saying, okay, look, I gave these people every step of a possibility to negotiate with us and to be reasonable. I even gave them what they needed and wanted, and they didn't play ball with us. So therefore, that's the reason I'm taking the stances now that I am. Whether that'll occur before November, I hope it does. Thanks.
Thanks for the call. Yeah, I mean, I get it. He's trying to give them every opportunity for a peaceful off-ramp. I mean, it would be a great – it's one thing to talk about Trump making the case. It's another thing to actually see him do it, since so many things he said have been in conflict with one another. So fine, you can reset here, provide the case, start making it. Here's you put aside the MOU for a second. Here's the framework for whether or not we're going to get a deal. And let me be specific about the must-haves. Reiterate them. And I'm willing to be patient. I'm willing to be constructive. But let's stop with the transparent rhetorical gamesmanship, and let's get down to brass tacks and hammer something out. And if we don't, then there are going to be obviously consequences to that. I just think there's a lack of clarity, moral and otherwise. If you want people to be persuaded by a case that you're making, then it needs to be discernible. And right now, the perception is, and J.D. Vance is part of it, because J.D. Vance is the one writing point here on the messaging and the negotiating. So you can't exactly ignore it. And if it looks like there's a divided opinion here, even between the president and his point man, then that does not inspire confidence either. So if there was a little bit less chumminess, a little bit more sobriety, a little bit more moral clarity, and a little bit of parameter setting, then I think that would go a long way to whatever decision Trump ultimately makes when he makes it, if you buy the fuse is lit argument that VDH advanced. Matt, Southside.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I kind of already see this going down the same road as Trump and Pence. I just feel like Vance will eventually throw Trump under the bus because of this mess. I don't feel like he really is loyal to him in that sense. And I think Republicans do that a lot when they want to save their own skin. And I do feel like Vance has been given the job of Kamala Harris when she was border czar. I mean, it's kind of a no-win situation, but he certainly is not doing himself any justice by handling it the way he is.
Thanks for the call, Matt. All right, coming up at 7:07, as I mentioned, Stephen Bucci from the Heritage Foundation will join us to continue this conversation. We'll also fold in some other geopolitical matters of importance, like Keir Starmer's resignation, and what, if anything, more productive than Keir Starmer, how could it be less, will come. We'll follow him at 10 Downing Street. We'll discuss that and Paul Vallis a little bit later in the show. We'll get back to some state and local issues as well, top of the 8 o'clock hour. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Optimism after U.S.-Iran talks. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
We made a lot of good progress. We did exactly what we wanted to do.
Vice President Vance, a short time ago at the Lake Lucerne Resort in Switzerland where the negotiations took place, he says that includes nuclear progress and the push to prevent Iran from having weapons.
We, and this is probably what we're most excited about as Americans, the Iranians have agreed to invite IAEA inspectors back into their country.
As for another big part of the conflict, oil and other shipping?
We wanted to build a mechanism for keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. It is open.
But Fox's Jonathan Savage reports
it was not all smooth sailing. Iranian state media said negotiations were paused after what it called an insulting message from President Trump. He posted on social media, "We'll hit Iran very hard if the Iranians don't stop proxies causing trouble in Lebanon." Technical level talks will continue through the week.
Now, Hezbollah and Israel did not attack each other yesterday for the first time in months. Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer resigned this morning.
Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first.
President Trump had been critical of Starmer over immigration policy and for Britain not helping the U.S. with Iran. On top of that,
you've had local elections in which the Labour Party were decimated by a lot of other parties, by Reform in particular. And, of course, you had Peter Mandelson, who was the man that Keir Starmer picked to become ambassador to America. And it turned out he had close relationships with Jeffrey Epstein.
Starmer will stay on until there's a new prime minister, and Fox's Benjamin Hall also reports there's a front-runner already.
Andy Burnham, who is the mayor of Manchester, finally won a seat in Parliament, and he is widely considered to be the next contender.
A famous economist has died. Alan Greenspan was chairman of the Federal Reserve almost 20 years, from President Reagan to George W. Bush. His wife, famous journalist Andrea Mitchell, put out a statement that Greenspan died at their home this morning of complications of Parkinson's disease. He was 100 years old. America's listening to Fox News.
59 degrees and sunshine at 7:02 in the QC Kinetics newsroom. At least 36 have been shot, 7 fatally in shootings across Chicago so far this weekend. 3 were shot at a large gathering in the Lawndale neighborhood Saturday night. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson attacked guns instead of addressing the violence.
We're not going to tolerate the senseless acts of violence, and we're going to continue to ensure that we make the critical investments to not just hold people accountable, but to make sure that we're preventing these acts of violence from ever occurring.
Police investigators are investigating a mass shooting that left more than a dozen people hurt on Chicago's South Side. It was an SUV that pulled alongside a large crowd Friday night in the 200 block of West 95th. In other news this morning, a 24-year-old man is accused of driving from Georgia to meet with a teen girl in Lake County. Lake County Sheriff's Department says Jordi Ferrante Perez made plans to meet with the 14-year-old girl who later was reported missing from her home near Gurnee, later rescued. at the Independence Grove Forest Preserve near Libertyville, and Perez was arrested on charges of solicitation of child pornography. On Sunday, the last JCPenney store in Chicago closed its doors for good, and the Ford City Mall this morning will also be shut down for good, ending a 61-year run along South Cicero Avenue. City of Chicago filed an emergency order to vacate the mall after the fire department confirmed the mall's fire suppression system had not worked in 2 years.
I feel like this should be a busier mall. I mean, it doesn't feel like it should be closing down.
While Chicago-based developers want to build a warehouse and logistics facility on the plot, local residents are pushing for a YMCA, maybe a park, on that site. Chicago's professional rugby team achieved Major League Rugby history at SeatGeek Stadium on the southwest side. Hounds took down the California Legion to cap an undefeated season and clinch a national championship.
Good, and our supporters to get behind us in this weather, it just proves how good Chicago is and how good the Hounds are.
Chicago sports, White Sox lost to the Tigers in 10-5-4. Cubs and Blue Jays rained out. The news, a service of the AM 560 store. T-shirts, hoodies, and more when you go to 560theanswer.com/store. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Hugh Hewitt sees a big win for Trump.
They signed this big second reconciliation, which again, Speaker Johnson pulls a rabbit out of the house. I think this guarantees that the wall will be finished. They have 2.5 years now to finish the entirety of the wall, if it's not already done, to finally seal the southern border with a physical barrier.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Alex Marlowe at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
All right, I'm so excited I can golf on our golf outing. And the reason why I can golf is because of Virago. Yes, I even called Dr. Huber the other day and said, I don't know what's going on. I've had shoulder pain for a year. I did not want to have surgery. Don't have time for downtime at all. So I called Dr. Huber and said, what's going on here? This is the only thing I've been doing different. And he said that Virago is an anti-inflammatory. So a lot of pain is associated with inflammation. So swelling's gone. I could use my shoulder again, and I will be golfing. But here's what you do. Virago is so much more than an anti-inflammatory. It's an antioxidant. It has nutrichemicals working together in synergy. And it even protects your heart, kidneys, and liver. And because it's liquid, folks, your body absorbs it quickly. I mix my Virago in with my orange juice. You can put it in smoothies, and you will feel the difference. Trust me. So order your bottle of Virago today at myvirago.com. That's myVIROGO.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. myvirago.com, coupon code IMMUNE.
Buy gold and put some silver in your pocket. I know what you're thinking. Everything's expensive right now. How am I going to buy gold? It's Ron Paul. Nowadays, a lot of things are out of your control, but there is something you can do right now to diversify your retirement, and it doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. My friends at Birch Gold Group will help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, a time-tested hedge against inflation. Plus, in honor of America 250, Birch Gold is going to give you a special America 250 1-ounce silver round for every $10,000 you purchase by July 2nd. Text the word SHELTER to the number 989898 to get a free info kit from Birch Gold and claim eligibility for this limited time offer. Again, text the word SHELTER to 989898 today.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
7:08, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of the AM 560 Advantage, where membership has its privileges like special members-only content. 560theanswer.com/join. Stop and go on the Kennedy this morning, outbound as you approach O'Hare. An accident blocking the Stevenson. A right lane is tied up inbound at Ashland Avenue. Accident right shoulder, I-88 eastbound, right at Highland Avenue. And accident cleanup continues in the South Austin neighborhood, Cicero and Congress Parkway. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now your forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a breezy morning giving way to pleasant conditions with some sunshine peeking through. The high will reach 72. Tonight will bring a crystal clear sky with a low of 55. Looking ahead to tomorrow, anticipate partly sunny skies and continued pleasant weather with a high of 76. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Alpha Wealth Group, bringing the trilogy of estate, tax, and investment planning together. Visit alphawealthgroup.com for a free report.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Just to pick up on the discussion we were having about the U.S.-Iran negotiations and both strategic and tactical decisions being made by the Trump administration. And by the way, J.D. Vance announcing this morning that Iran has agreed to allow nuclear inspectors into the country. We'll discuss with Stephen Bucci momentarily. But I mentioned a speech that U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, made at the Jewish News Syndicate event the other day that Bibi also spoke at. And I think it's worth hearing because despite a lot of the back and forth over the Israel dynamic in this larger discussion of a deal with the Iranians, Mike Huckabee talked about the relationship that Bibi and Trump have and the unbreakable bond, the phrase that he used, between the United States and Israel.
Here's what I would just ask you to put in large print and underline it. I would say it this way. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Always with the
one thing that the president has said as consistently as any man has ever said anything is that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, that Iran will never have enriched uranium, that Iran is not going to be able to continue flowing its support to its proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, and that the United States and Israel have an unbreakable bond. And it really is still true today. There is no world leader that the president speaks to more than he does Prime Minister Netanyahu. Theirs is a relationship that is not just as two statesmen. It is deeply personal to the point that there is a candor between them that is probably unlike his relationship with anyone else. The president says things to people, and he says things to the world. But the one thing that I've always heard him say, always, and that I've always watched him do, is that America has an unbreakable bond with the state of Israel. And I trust that he means what he says.
Well, and the other point that Huckabee made to that end is that he has a portfolio here, recognizing Jerusalem, the Abraham Accords, striking Islamist terrorists, those proxies we're talking about, Iranian proxies like the Houthis. So, yeah, that's why I was discussing last hour the difference between the Trump-Bibi relationship and the Vance-Bibi relationship, to the extent there is one. And I think you can see the discrepancy over the rhetorical choices in the last week. So we'll see. Let's bring Stephen Bucci in because there's a lot more to cover. Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and a top Pentagon official. Now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad to be back on the show after a little break.
Yes, I didn't know if they had shuttled you out to Lucerne to participate. But let me get your take on something Marco Rubio said. Yeah, Marco Rubio, he's been heard from. This is Marco Rubio on the Iranian weapons production and the issue that presents for us.
They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have. They've been doing this for a very long time, and by the way, they've been doing it under sanction. You see the attacks they're conducting right now? They're attacking airports, they're attacking hotels, they're hitting not just military bases, they're attacking our embassies directly, they're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military, and that's a weakened Iran. That's in Iran despite years of sanction. Imagine a year from now or a year and a half from now the capabilities they would have to inflict damage on us. It's an unacceptable risk, especially in the hands of a regime that's run by radical clerics. The Ayatollah was a radical cleric. That entire regime is led by radical clerics.
Yeah, he's the only one that's still using the phrase radical clerics and Islamists and other phrases that are appropriately descriptive. Vance, for example, has eschewed such terms. But the larger issue, because seems to be some back and forth exactly in terms of our understanding of what the capacities are, what the situation is with the global oil supply, what the situation is with Iranian weapons production and weapons caches. So do you have a sense that we have a sense of exactly what Iran's stockpiles and productive capacities are at this point?
Well, it's safe to say that both their stockpiles and their capacity to restock are greatly degraded, but clearly they're not eliminated. I really wish we could have kept going with the kinetic part and eliminated those capacities, but the decision was made to stop. So they're still there. I don't think they have massive stockpiles of ballistic missiles, but as Secretary Rubio pointed out, their ability to make, particularly the drones, you can do that pretty quickly. It's not even as difficult as the ballistic missiles by any means. So that's a danger. Likewise, their ability to put out these little bitty boats that are causing a lot of the problems around the strait. Those are just motorboats. I mean, they can go to a weekend sale and buy a bunch of those, or they can produce their own.
Yeah, but why? But on the speedboats, even to the drones. I mean, the speedboats. We see drug cartel speedboats getting vaporized on a routine basis. Well, we don't have the capacity, especially with air superiority, and in the Middle East, to do the same with the Iranian speedboats.
We do, and we have. We've killed a whole bunch of those, but they've got a lot of them, and they can build more, or they can, procure more by taking them from other people in the country and refitting them. So there's more of those targets out there. I'm with you on that, though. I have to say, I really wish we had gone to a policy of anything that leaves the shoreline anywhere in Iran is sunk. As soon as it gets, out there in the water, I don't care what it is. And sadly, if we get some fishing boats, well, that's life. They should have controlled it, or they should have listened to our warning. but we've let it go too long and too loosely to have done that. So we didn't. So they have that capacity, but it's very low grade. It's not high-end stuff. That maybe they have a couple of high-end missiles left we haven't taken out. I couldn't give you an exact number. I'm not even sure the intel community can give you an exact number, but that number is low. The other stuff, not the highest capacity and effectiveness, but it's still dangerous. You know, a guy with a single-shot rifle is still a guy with a rifle, and it's dangerous.
But he can't hold a country hostage, right? I mean, that's
no, and he shouldn't. And you know, President Trump's desire to do this through negotiations, as we've talked about, is laudable, but I think he's frankly given him too much rope, and we probably shouldn't have given him that much. But we did, so now we got to go forward.
Well, I mean, you know, the whole back and forth over the weekend about the strait being closed, but it can't be closed because they don't have control of the strait, and if you don't knock it off, we're going to take control of the strait and toll it and take 20% of the oil, and then we're going to blow up your country too while we're at it. I mean, the ability and the idea that they can't close the strait combined with the threats Trump is making. So if it's that simple, then why didn't we just take the strait by force and take that ace out of their deck?
I could not give you an answer to that. I wish we would have. I think that would have been a much more sensible path. We could have called all the allies and friendly countries and said, look, we're not doing this because we want to take control, but we're doing it to stop them from having control. We'd love you to come along and be a part of it, but please don't be a problem. And I don't think anybody would have fought that at all other than the Iranians.
So is there a problem either in cost or equipment or potential loss of life that we're not seeing that the Trump administration is?
No, I don't think there is. There would not be an extreme loss of life. That's clear. I mean, there wasn't an extreme loss of life other than a couple of unfortunate incidents when it was the higher intensity kind of fighting. I don't think it would have required us to go in and take any of the mainland of Iran. We might have taken Karg Island if we're going to control their oil production and distribution. But I don't think we would have had to put troops on the ground anywhere but on that island. And I think we could have done that with, frankly, little or no casualties. It's a choice, and they made a choice to do it this way. And as I say, it's not the way I would have done it. It's not the way I would have advised the president had I been in a position to do so. But, you know, there's a lot of smart guys helping the president do this. The president ultimately makes the decisions. You don't always agree with what the boss decides. But it's not. There's not some existential reason out there that drove him to this course of action.
President Trump, in his sit down with Axios' Mark Caputo, had this to say about people like me and you who disagree with the approach taken.
You know, the stock market is up over the last 4 or 5 days when it looks like we're going to make a deal. Stock market's up thousands of points. Everybody's richer. Now, would you rather have that or be like some stupid people? I'd be honest with you. I lost respect for some people because
who'd you lose respect?
I don't want to mention the names.
Oh, you can.
But you know, hardliners. Oh, we got to take them out yet.
Well, what are you going to?
Let me tell you. And plus, I'm not looking to kill people. I have one primary wish as president. In terms of people, I never want to be the late great Herbert Hoover. So this is the kind of thing that could cause a worldwide depression.
See, the thing about the oil in the worldwide depression line that's confusing to me is for the last several weeks, I've got nothing but time. I'm patient. They're not going to, I'm not itching for a deal. They're itching for a deal. I'm not being defensive. You're being defensive. So that was the posture. And also we've got, all the oil we need. It's more of a problem for Western Europe and China. now, again, there were oil company execs saying, like, if this continues, the global oil supply, I mean, it gets a little dicey as you get into July. You're going to see price spikes that so far have been suppressed because of release of strategic reserves and so forth. But there again, as much as he wants to be critical of his critics, if that's true, if we were facing the possibility of a global depression, then why not do by force? That to me provides more incentive to do by force, to make it clear to the Iranians that this is not your plaything and this is not your, to borrow a phrase, trump card. So, these positions that are all over the place on Iranian capacity with respect to weapons, on oil, on what we are demanding and are not demanding, it does create the impression that there is not the clarity of thought that should be attendant to dealing with these mullahs in Tehran.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not privy, and all of us out there commenting are not privy to every bit of the intelligence. Maybe there's some info in there that would sway me one way or another. I think if that kind of intel was available, it would be smarter to release that kind of intel so that more people could get behind the course of action than have. I don't think you and I are disagreeing with him because of some sort of, elemental dislike for President Trump.
No, obviously.
If that's, so it's, I'm prepared to be an ally and a supporter. I have been going along until we got to this point, and still willing to be convinced, but he's not showing us what that is. That line, if he had that line that he was talking about with Axios all along, that would be, would make more sense. But, then there's always the element of, is he switching gears as a negotiating tactic? Is he trying to, confuse them or get them to do something? I don't know. He is a pretty effective negotiator in a lot of situations. I think the difference here is the Iranians are not good faith negotiators. They're very skillful manipulators, and they understand manipulating our press, manipulating people's attitudes of their hurt. Oh my God, I got to pay $4 plus for a gallon of gas. That hurts some people, but it's not. I don't think that alone is going to drive America or the world into a depression. I'm not an economist. Maybe I'm just Pollyanna with that. So I don't know what I don't know, and that's always hard to do it. I just don't trust the Iranians. I think if you give them an inch, they're going to try and take a mile, and they've already started doing that. They are still trying to convince everybody that it's their right to close down the Straits of Hormuz and it's their area to control. I don't want to set a precedent that allows them to think that way or anybody else to think they can do that. Like the Chinese with the Straits of Taiwan. So that would be a bad precedent.
So the news this morning about Iran allowing for IAEA nuclear inspectors to come in country again and ostensibly assess the state of their nuclear weaponization program. What's your reaction to that?
That I'll believe when I see it. I mean, they may let them in the country, but they're going to be under the same sort of restrictions or worse than they were before, and that wasn't effective. The IAEA thinks it's effective. The rest of us are looking and going, how can you be effective in an inspection if you can't go everywhere you feel you need to, when you need to, without them interfering with you doing it? And that's never going to happen with this regime in power in Iran.
Right. I mean, just to your point, the JCPOA had inspections as part of that deal, too. And last year, that same IAEA found Iran in breach of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Of course they did. I mean, how did they get to almost weapons-grade uranium? Because they were running a nuclear program in violation of the agreement from 10 years ago. So, right. I mean, the idea that this marks significant progress, this is all, to me, sort of window dressing to give the appearance that there is something significant happening. And the Iranians are doing it too, but it's one thing for the Iranians to do it. It's another thing for us to call this significant progress or to suggest that this might be a lever to consummate a deal that is meaningful.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with this agreement. I don't think it's going to sufficiently change things in Iran for the long term. And in the short term, those guys are patient, they're sneaky, and I don't trust them. So for me, I need more than just trust but verify. I need,
specific
we don't
performance.
Trust you, we're going to verify, and we're going to smack you down at anything that steps out of line. And I'm not sure we're in a position to do that right now.
Yeah, and J.D. Vance is telling us the Iranians are interested in turning over a new leaf, while I see headlines like this in the Wall Street Journal. As war with U.S. eases, Iran steps up hangings of dissidents. It doesn't sound like they're turning over a new leaf to me. Sorry, Mr. Vice President. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, well, and how would you like to be an Iranian dissident right now in that country, or anybody who wanted freedom, who saw a light at the end of this 47-year tunnel that they've been suffering through? And suddenly, now the guys that said, "Oh yeah, we're with you," now we stop because it's convenient for us. That's not a good message for America to send, I don't think.
My sense of it too is, I mentioned this earlier, that just the way that Vance is interacting and carrying himself at Lucerne, but not just Lucerne, previously as well, and some of the things that are part of this MOU. Is this is the approach that we took with the Chinese Communist Party 3 decades ago. If we give them MNF, MFN, most favored nation status, and we bring them into the global community, this fictional place called the global community, that trading with them will dull the blade, and they'll no longer be this expansionist, malign actor. And so, and of course, that didn't turn out to be true. So we're doing the same things here with the Iranians. A little bit of charm and a lot of cash, and we'll bring them into the community of nations, and we'll get a couple more signatories like Saudi Arabia on the Abraham Accords, and that will reshape the Middle East. It will quiet everything down, and everybody's going to get along famously.
Yeah, it didn't work out with the Chinese. I don't foresee it working out with Iran. I think Iran is like the Chinese. Very long range, very ideologically driven with the Iranians. Obviously, it's a religious ideology, but very deeply held. They are not going to go quietly into the night and suddenly become Democrats and capitalists. It's just not going to happen without some tipping point kind of event. And we've had the opportunity to have one of those events, I thought, but now it seems to have gone by the wayside.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you as always.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you later. And Stephen joined us in the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Advantage Gold, America's #1 precious metals company, is sounding the alarm that a storm is coming and that now is the time to diversify your portfolio before it's too late. That's why we're offering an emergency gold and silver protection kit valued at $49, absolutely free for anyone who calls today at 800-900-8000. This kit includes critical information for investors with a retirement account seeking to own physical gold and silver, but want to do it tax and penalty free. Advantage Gold has helped investors protect and secure their wealth with physical gold and silver since 2014. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 and we'll rush your emergency gold and silver kit plus a free copy of Ken Rogoff's book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. See how gold and silver can help you protect and secure your wealth with the help of Advantage Gold. Results vary. Consult your tax advisor before investing. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker and my new co-host,
Amy Jacobson,
on AM 560. We wanted you to know that we have a special show every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. here on AM 560, The Answer. It is Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker and
Amy Jacobson.
It's every Sunday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. 2-hour show, 2-hour radio extravaganza. Amy, we're going to tantalize the listening public and the listening private with all kinds of retirement planning information. So tune in at AM 560 Sunday mornings at 7 a.m.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 7:37, Amir Kotecha, a former senior diplomat for the Brits and head of the British consulate in Russia, will join us to talk about the PM change coming to the UK and what it, if anything, will mean for policy change there, starting with, open borders. 7:37, now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
60 degrees and sunshine in the QC Kinetics newsroom. At least 37 people have been shot, 7 fatally in shootings across Chicago this weekend. Mayor Brandon Johnson.
We're not going to tolerate the senseless acts of violence, and we're going to continue to ensure that we make the critical investments to not just hold people accountable, but to make sure that we're preventing these acts of violence from ever occurring.
Police investigators are probing a mass shooting that left more than a dozen hurt on Chicago's South Side. Vice President J.D. Vance at a Swiss resort in the Alps, where talks are being held to try and arrange peace with Iran.
Can we turn over a new leaf? Can we change relations in the Middle East permanently? Or do we go back to doing things the old way, which is not our preference, but is certainly very much something that can't happen?
The U.S. military this morning maintains the Straits of Hormuz are open and traffic is flowing. Reuters says shipping tracking data supports Iran's claim that the strait has traffic moving slowly. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is resigning after winning an historic landslide election in 2024.
I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision. I will ask the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party to set out a timetable with nominations opening on the 9th of July and completed by the summer recess.
An investigation is continuing today after 3 hikers died on Grand Canyon inner trails in recent days. Rebecca Rodriguez frequently visits the Grand Canyon.
Something about the Grand Canyon is that at the rim is pretty high elevation, about 5,000 feet, so it's a lot cooler. But as we hike in, it gets hotter.
So inner canyon temperatures are reaching 110 degrees in the shade right now during midday hours. A 24-year-old man is accused of driving from Georgia to meet a 14-year-old girl in Lake County. Jordi Fuerte Perez was arrested on charges including solicitation of child pornography. 2 have died due to strong storms Sunday in southern Illinois. Jefferson County Sheriff Jeff Bullard confirmed the deaths. Much of that damage in the small town of Dix, sitting along I-57 between Salem and Mount Vernon. And Illinois has already set a record for the most tornadoes in one year. Weather officials say the state has experienced at least 147 tornadoes so far in 2026. Chicago sports, White Sox lost to the Tigers in 10, 5-4. Yesterday's Cubs and Blue Jays game was rained out. Cubs begin a road set with the Mets tonight. The news, a service of the AM 560 mobile app. AM 560 mobile app is at 560theanswer.com/mobile. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher believes the left is extremely upset.
They're angry, they're bitter, they're disconnected from reality. We got USA chants at the White House, jets roaring overhead, and the left is just raging, while the rest of us are just happy at the way things are going. The message is clear. They don't love America because America loves Trump.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560, The Answer.
Making the switch to a new communications and IT company may seem like a big ordeal, but if you're not getting the reliable support, consistent internet, and secure solutions your company needs, meet Access One. your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore, Access One is Chicago-owned and Chicago-run, a trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. We'll make the switch easier than you think. Let's talk. Call 800-804-8333 or visit accessoneInc.com. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. That's accessoneInc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
What's with the ladder and bowling ball?
I'm testing the unsmushable Qualix Ultra Foam in Penny Mustard's Motion Sectional.
But our foam is already proven to stay supportive and comfortable for the life of the sofa.
Are you also dropping a St. Bernard on the sectional?
No, he's here to rescue me when I fall off the ladder.
The forever comfortable Motion Sectional, American made with a solid wood frame and hundreds of fabric and leather options, starting at just $62.95 at Penny Mustard.
7 Chicagoland showrooms.
PennyMustard.com.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Did you know that undiagnosed or untreated diabetes and hypertension can cause kidney failure? The National Kidney Foundation of Illinois has the nation's only traveling kidney screening program, the Kidney Mobile. The Kidney Mobile is offering free diabetes, blood pressure, and kidney disease screenings in your area. For more information, visit kidneymobile.org. Early detection can prevent kidney failure. Take charge of your health and get screened.
The Danielle Gill Podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
Throughout Trump's first administration, the Democrats cried endlessly about foreign collusion and the usurpation of democracy through government abuse and corruption. All the while, they were doing just that. They were colluding with foreign governments to usurp democracy through government abuse, corruption, all of the things.
Subscribe for free today to the Danielle Gill Podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Giving your liver a spring cleaning is easy with Active Liver from New Nordic. Search for Active Liver by New Nordic on Amazon, CVS, Wegmans, or GNC.
7:41 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of RockAuto.com. A failed strut can turn any drive into a rough ride. When it's time for repairs, Rock Auto makes finding the right parts easy. Shop name brands at lower prices, all the parts your car will ever need, right at your door. Rock Auto. Lombard, Finley and 22nd report of an accident. Addison, Rollwing, and Lake report of an accident. Big delays on Route 53 northbound as you approach Kirchhoff in that ongoing roadwork zone, and delays on the Stevenson inbound central to Kenzie. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but first, your forecast. In the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center, breezy this morning, pleasant, clouds, some sun, and 74.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by The Real Story with Jeannie Ives and Amy Jacobson. Heard weekday mornings at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Last week, the European Parliament voted rather overwhelmingly, 418 to 218, to send them back, send them back, send them. That was the chant. What the legislation they voted on? Deportation orders now apply across all EU member states. You can't evade removal by crossing a border. Detention before deportation extended from 6 months to 30 months, unlimited for security threats. Return hubs in third countries, so sort of safe third country type policies like we have. Migrants can be transferred outside the EU while awaiting deportation, including families with children. Automatic deportation stays while appeals are pending, gone. Courts decide on a case-by-case basis. Entry bans double from 5 to 10 years. Lifetime bans for security risks. Currently, only about 20% of people ordered deported from the EU actually leave. And for years, as we've even heard from the outgoing British PM, Keir Starmer, voters were told that open borders and mass migration had gone from sort of non-negotiable to, we need to do a little bit better job tightening up their borders. That's what Keir Starmer promised to do once he got in, and the revolt against open borders policies started to pick up in pace. And so now the European Parliament has made a statement overwhelmingly that's clearly in response to public pressure from across the continent. And then today we get, as was anticipated over the weekend, Keir Starmer announcing that he is resigning as head of the Labour Party, and apparently the mayor of Manchester is poised to take over. For more on all this, we're pleased to be joined by Amir Kotecha, CEO of the Center for Government Reform, formerly a senior diplomat serving as head of the British consulate in Russia. Amir Kotecha, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Good to be here.
So in your piece in The Spectator, you suggest that Keir Starmer combined two less than laudatory qualities that sort of have a negative multiplier when combined, ineptitude and ruthlessness, and it didn't work out very well for him.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, to take those in turn, I mean, I think there was an ineptitude to his premiership. I think, he was a lawyer. He became director of public prosecutions in the United Kingdom. And so I think people did expect that, if nothing else, he would be a competent technocrat, right? And in actual fact, that hasn't really panned out. I think, in particular, he failed to prepare for office in any sort of adequate way. The Labour Party has been out of power for 14 years in this country, and so they had 14 years to prepare. And Keir Starmer himself had 4 years as leader of the opposition. So I think most people expected that he would use that time well, and he would prepare what he wanted to do with power. Right? And that was very much lacking. And then on the ruthlessness, I mean, this is perhaps more controversial, and not everyone would agree. But he has lost significant support in this country for some of the authoritarian tendencies, frankly, as people see it, that he's exhibited. I mean, in particular, people in this country who have been jailed for social media posts. Now, look, some of these social media posts in question were unsavory, to put it mildly, or things said in anger. But, nonetheless, there's a sense that we don't want to live in the sort of country where people can be jailed for a social media post, which is not actually a direct incitement to violence, but more something which is politically incorrect or something which is seen to be hateful. So there's a sort of ruthlessness, for example, there in how he's dealt with some of those issues. And so that's why I use those two words in my piece.
How impactful is the immigration issue? I mentioned the EU vote last week. Obviously, you've had some high-profile cases, most notably in Scotland with that Sudanese asylee the other week. And that's, there are many other examples, but that's, sort of top of mind. How impactful was that in terms of the loss of confidence in Starmer and Labour, and frankly, the rise of sort of the third track with Farage and Lowe?
Yeah, so look, I mean, clearly Starmer has failed to get a grip on the illegal immigration and the abuse of our southern border, right? So the small boats continue to land from France, and he tried to strike a deal with Macron and the French government, which frankly hasn't worked at all, and they've basically been forced to abandon it. So the small boats keep on coming. I think the sort of link to that though is where there have been atrocities which illegal immigrants or asylum seekers have committed. I think rather than acknowledge the scale of anger in the country, he's tended to try and police the conversation. So he said, for example, that we shouldn't be speculating about the origins of the perpetrators, or he's criticized people for using hateful rhetoric or divisive rhetoric. And I think this is really where Starmer has come unstuck. I mean, where there is a terrible atrocity, where someone is killed or whatever, or raped, there is naturally public interest in knowing, has this person come on a small boat, landing, having crossed the English Channel and landed in southern England? Because, of course, one of the big criticisms is that these people arriving on the small boats are totally unvetted. There's absolutely no ability to do background checks on them and to check whether they have prior criminal histories, for example. So I think that's really where he's become unstuck, and that's what, in a way, fueled the support we now see for Farage, and to some extent Rupert Lowe. Though Rupert Lowe is although he has a sort of cult of personality around him, in the country at large, he doesn't command anywhere near the sort of support that Nigel Farage does.
What about that? The report that was issued last week that suggests that these, the way it's described as Pakistani rape gangs, although the report actually includes men from Somalia, Iran, Syria, Turkey, and other countries, other Muslim majority countries. The suggestion that upwards of 250,000 girls have been subjected to rape, gang rape, trafficking, torture, forced Islamic conversion. This is all in this sort of 220-page report that was put out. But, I mean, there's been a lot of stories, individual stories. This was sort of pulled together in a larger report, as I'm describing. What is your assessment of the credibility of that report, and what does that speak to in terms of perhaps underappreciated because of underreporting, underappreciated problem because of underreporting about the level of criminal activity that was invited into the country by the political class as it's currently constituted?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, the grooming gangs, or as I would probably put it, the rape gangs scandal, I think is one of the most terrific scandals in modern British history. I mean, just the scale of it and for what took place, really, I mean, the details are horrific. The report that Rupert Lowe has done into this, there's been some criticisms of it about its rigor, and people have questioned, for example, this 250,000 figure. But in a way, that is slightly beside the point. I mean, anyone sensible now agrees that this was a horrific episode, I think Rupert Lowe does, deserve some credit for shining a spotlight on it, as does Nigel Farage and others. And there's a couple of things going on here. I mean, partly it is linked, of course, to immigration. Some of these people were immigrants, in particular, hailing from the Mirpur region of Pakistan, but some were homegrown Brits. So it's not solely about immigration. Much of it, though, was about a fear by the police of being seen to be racist. So, police, in a way, failing to trust their own, the evidence of their eyes and ears, and to exercise basic common sense because they feared being called or being seen to be racist. And I think, it's this really which lies at the...
Did we lose him? Amir, are you still there?
Hello?
Oh, yeah, sorry, you cut out for just a second there. Go ahead.
Yeah,
you were just talking about the police being
to,
perceived as racist, yeah.
Yeah, so we need to get back to basic common sense, and we need to be ruthless, frankly, in tackling these sorts of horrific crimes, and we cannot allow a sort of politically correct sense of or a sense of accusations of racism to get in the way of that. Because, if we do allow that, then we end up with the sorts of horrific abuses that we've seen across the country.
So what can we expect from the Manchester mayor who's slated to be the next PM? Is he a pragmatic socialist, a doctrinaire one? It seems a little unclear. He seems to have oscillated back and forth on sort of being characterized in either camp.
Yeah, no, look, so Andy Burnham is now sort of basically overwhelmingly likely to become the next British Prime Minister at some point in the next few months. I think most people expect the actual handover to happen between mid-July and September, because he said he needs a bit of time to prepare, but also there's the sense that, Starmer should be allowed a final swan song, so the suggestion that Starmer will go to an important NATO summit in July. I think Starmer is probably trying to create a legacy for himself on foreign affairs, and that's partly the reason I think why he's keen to stay on through the summer. But we don't, it's hard to say with any certainty what Andy Burnham is about and what he believes in, because, you use the word oscillated, and he has. I mean, he's really flip-flopped on, for example, his views on Brexit. He's of course sympathetic to the UK being in the EU and going back into the EU, but more recently he said we shouldn't reopen the old Brexit clause, and he does respect the will of the British people. But he really has gone back and forth on that issue, frankly all over the place. So that's just one example. But in terms of his economic perspective, he again has said slightly contradictory things. He said, in an ideal world, he would have allowed more taxation, particularly on wealthier people, to increase revenues for public spending. But he said because the Labour government put in their manifesto they would not increase taxes, he thinks that, it's important for public trust that he doesn't go back on that. So, I mean, really what we see is on all sorts of issues, he's giving slightly conflicting messages and is flip-flopping. So we'll have to wait and see where he ends up.
Amir Kotecha is the CEO of the Center for Government Reform, formerly a senior diplomat serving as the head of the British consulate in Russia. Amir, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
You've probably heard all those ads for life insurance. Just a few dollars a day, apply online in minutes, no medical exam. Simple, easy, and cheap, right? Now you're thinking, maybe I should get a quote. Well, smart thinking. Everyone should have life insurance. But here's what they don't tell you. Those few dollars a day rates, they're for young people in perfect health. That's why everyone calls Big Lou the 50 to 60-year-old not-so-perfect candidate. Like you. You take prescription meds and you're overweight. Winner, winner, fried chicken dinner. Well, Big Lou works with life insurance companies that want people like you with no surprises after you apply. In fact, if you're a 50-year-old guy with a few health glitches, Lou could probably find you $1 million of term life coverage for about $200 a month. So yeah, you need life insurance. But unless you're young and healthy, you gotta call Big Lou because he's like you, older, heavier, and on meds too. Get a quote right now at 800-555-2085, 800-555-2085, or biglou.com.
President Trump has triggered a $200 billion tech disruption, and Wall Street is asleep at the switch. This $200 billion investment in chip technology could make today's artificial intelligence chips obsolete. Technology that will make today's AI data centers a thing of the past, like IBM's old mainframes. While most investors are focused on old-fashioned AI, there are 3 companies quietly building a $1 trillion triangle that could transform every tech sector on Earth. These 3 companies are gearing up to develop and manufacture supercomputers the size of a dinner plate. Institutions like Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street are pouring more than $200 billion into this AI revolution. Investment guru George Gilder has been predicting tech revolutions for more than 40 years, including the iPhone, Netflix, and Amazon. Now he's got his finger on 3 companies whose technology will change tech forever. Log on to TrillionDollarTriangle.com to find out which 3 companies are working on what could be the biggest tech disruption since the internet. TrillionDollarTriangle.com. That's TrillionDollarTriangle.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Oh, I thought we were going to get some Joy Division since we were just talking about Manchester, England. You know, the birthplace of punk rock. Justin's too young to appreciate Ian Curtis, Mike. Coming up at 8:08, we're going to talk to Paul Vallis. We'll talk a little crime and punishment, and get his reviews of the Obamalisk grand opening last week. That's all at 8:08, bottom of the 8 o'clock hour. A little sports and politics, World Cup style. It's now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
There was a lot of good progress. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what Vice President Vance says after leading the U.S. in talks with Iran over the weekend.
We laid a very good foundation for a successful final deal.
He says the talks included keeping the Strait of Hormuz open for shipping, and Iran agreed to let nuclear inspectors back in. The vice president calls that a first step to
permanently ending a nuclear weapons program in Iran.
The Iranians also acknowledged major progress in the talks, adding that a deconfliction cell for Lebanon will be the first real test of the understanding. Israel and Hezbollah did not trade fire on Sunday for the first time since March 2nd, according to the UN.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. Political upheaval this morning in Britain. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announcing
I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
And he'll step down when a new prime minister is chosen. President Trump's been critical of Starmer over immigration for Britain not helping the U.S. with Iran. The president also posted on Truth Social that he could make Chicago safe in 1 month. After weekend shootings left 8 people dead, more than 30 wounded. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche just told Fox.
What we're talking about here is stopping the violence, the weekend violence. And there you need to work hand in hand with local law enforcement. They want to work with us. Yeah. I guarantee it.
But Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat, does not want federal intervention. The president also posted that work will get underway immediately to fix the Washington reflecting pool, claiming vandals seriously damaged it. U.S. Attorney for D.C. Janine Pirro tells Fox.
There are several citations that have been handed out to individuals, and these are cases that will be prosecuted to the full extent.
Not long after the president hired a contractor to paint the bottom of the pool dark blue, the pool has since turned green, filled with algae, and some of that paint's peeled, seen floating in the pool. Alan Greenspan has died, an influential economist who was Federal Reserve Chairman for nearly 20 years, from Presidents Reagan to George W. Bush. Greenspan was 100 years old, suffered from complications of Parkinson's disease. America's listening to Fox News.
It's 8:02, 60 degrees and sunshine in the QC Kinetics newsroom. I'm Mike Scott. Chicago police say they're investigating at least 7 shot fatally this weekend, 36 others wounded from gunfire across the city. Responding to the violence, Mayor Brandon Johnson.
We're not going to tolerate the senseless acts of violence, and we're going to continue to ensure that we make the critical investments to not just hold people accountable, but to make sure that we're preventing these acts of violence from ever occurring.
Police investigators are also probing a mass shooting that left more than a dozen hurt on Chicago's South Side from Friday night along West 95th. 3 are in custody following an attempted robbery on a CTA bus on the South Side. It happened Saturday night when a man was approached by 3 male offenders along Ashland Avenue. The offenders removed items from the victim, who then pulled out a sharp object. Offenders beat the victim before exiting the bus. The victim hospitalized in good condition. Elgin police are investigating after a woman's body was pulled from the Fox River. It happened yesterday. According to investigators, north of the Kimball Street Bridge, the woman's identity and cause of death has not been released. Chicago sports. Chicago's pro rugby team, the Hounds, made history, capping an undefeated season with a national title. Yesterday, clinched at SeatGeek Stadium.
Good, and our supporters to get behind us in this weather, it just proves how good Chicago is and how good the Hounds are.
Over 4,000 people crowded the SeatGeek Stadium in the pouring rain to see that national title. White Sox lost to the Tigers 5-4-10. Cubs and Blue Jays rained out. The news, a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Listen to AM 560 on your smartphone or mobile device at 560theanswer.com/mobile. Time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Maria Bartiromo, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Economist Alan Greenspan has died. He served 5 terms as chair of the Federal Reserve. He was 100. His wife of 29 years, Andrea Mitchell, released a statement saying Greenspan passed away at their home from complications of Parkinson's disease. Crude oil prices have moderated since the interim U.S.-Iran peace deal, though Reuters says lower fuel costs are not likely to result in airfares coming down. U.S. airlines raised ticket prices and bag fees and cut schedules to make up for the jump in fuel costs, but the steps only offset part of the increased costs. The FDA has agreed to reverse its rejection of a treatment for a rare and fatal brain disease. REGENXBIO developed the experimental gene therapy. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Scott Jennings sees business as usual in California.
Do I think it's fraudulent on its face that a Republican didn't get more than 25% of the vote in a mayor's race in L.A.? No, that's not inherently fraudulent. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, California routinely picks the literal worst people in the world to run the state and the cities. That does not seem to be a shocking outcome to me.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560. The Answer.
John was an active man. He'd go for runs, walk the golf course, and always take the stairs instead of the elevator. But then bone-on-bone knee pain got in the way and affected his mobility. It became too painful to even go for walks. And when it seemed like John's only option was knee replacement surgery, a friend told him about the Joint Relief Institute and their affordable, non-surgical knee pain relief. John met with the Joint Relief Institute and discovered their lubricating gel treatment could rejuvenate his lost cartilage. Safe, effective, no surgery. Long story short, John is now back to being active without pain or medication.
There is an alternative to knee replacement surgery. Stop living in pain. Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted. Reclaim your mobility with the Joint Relief Institute.
Hi, my name is Dr. Michael Huber. During cold and flu season, a nearby cough or sneeze can trigger a familiar dread. That helpless feeling of being defenseless against an invisible viral threat. But what if you could change the narrative? What if you could fortify your body's natural defenses? This is why I developed Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail designed to give your body the upper hand. Virago is more than a supplement. It's a revolutionary liquid formula packed with 23 powerful natural nutraceuticals for rapid absorption. This unique blend is scientifically crafted to help build resilience and keep you protected. Don't just hope for good health. Make it happen with Virago. Virago and Maha, making America healthy again.
Virago. Order your bottle today online at myvirago.com and use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. myvirago.com. Coupon code IMMUNE.
Buy gold and put some silver in your pocket. I know what you're thinking. Everything's expensive right now. How am I going to buy gold? It's Ron Paul. Nowadays, a lot of things are out of your control, but there is something you can do right now to diversify your retirement, and it doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. My friends at Birch Gold Group will help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, a time-tested hedge against inflation. Plus, in honor of America 250, Birch Gold is going to give you a special America 250 1-ounce silver round for every $10,000 you purchase by July 2nd. Text the word SHELTER to the number 989898 to get a free info kit from Birch Gold and claim eligibility for this limited time offer. Again, text the word SHELTER to 989898 today.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
8:09, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of rockauto.com. Rock Auto makes finding the right part easy. Shop name brands, lower prices, and have parts shipped directly to your door. All the parts your car will ever need. Rock Auto. Warrenville, Butterfield, and Route 59 report of an accident. This morning, friends in Downers Grove, you're dealing with an accident at Ogden and Bel Air Lane. And in Elmhurst, York and Cayuga, report of an accident. I-80, an accident westbound at LaGrange Road. Delays this morning as you begin your trip on the Ike. Your stop and go outbound between Cicero and First Avenue. And an accident on the Kennedy inbound between Irving Park and Armitage. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but first, your forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a breezy morning followed by pleasant conditions with partial sunshine. The high will reach 72 degrees. Tonight will bring a crystal clear sky with a low of 55. Tomorrow, anticipate partly sunny skies and pleasant weather with a high of 76. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. The continued reviews of the Obamalisk and the big grand opening fete of the Obamas. All the stars were out. None commenting on the unpaid contractors and subcontractors, though, like we discussed on Friday with Mike Owen, plumbing contractor. He's owed $4 million, and he said on Friday, told us on the show that he's at near the bottom of the totem pole in terms of contractors who were owed in the millions of dollars by Team Obama. Some, he said, tens of millions of dollars. And you had the president of the Black Contractors Association, Omar Sharif, no relation, saying never seen anything like it. And at least a couple of MBEs, minority business enterprises, black-owned contracting businesses, have already filed for bankruptcy. Right. And so you got this perspective from Sunny Hostin on that show featuring the man-hating shrews, The View. yeah, they need to be more specific. That's why I gave you the title. There's a couple of shows like that. And the reason I play Sonny Hostin's review of Obamalisk and the wonders of it is because that's where the activewear Antifa in DuPage County get their news. So I just want you to sort of understand, who you're dealing with and where they're getting their information when you run across these folks at a Starbucks, say, in downtown Hinsdale.
And I think if you also look at the way that he has done this presidential center, it is in a historic neighborhood, Jackson Park, which is a neighborhood that needed to be developed. That's a neighborhood that has been underserved for so long. You think about it, it's going to be open daily, free of charge for children and adults. It's for everyone to enjoy. And then the centerpiece is this 225-foot tall tower. And this is what is on it. It says, "You are America. The single most powerful word in our democracy is the word we. We the people. We shall overcome. Yes, we can. Oh, what a glorious task we are given to continually try to improve this great nation of ours." That is the message of the library. We can. Yes, we can. We're coming together. He's setting the tone with his very presidential center, and that is why Trump will never be the president that he was, or quite frankly, the man that he is.
Powerful. Jackson Park is an area that needed to be redeveloped? Huh. I mean, I'm not going to quibble with noted Chicago historian and officer of the court, Sonny Hostin, of course, but I had no idea. For more on this and other topics, please be joined by Paul Vallas, Senior Policy Advisor at the Illinois Policy Institute, who writes weekly for the Chicago Contrarian and, of course, former CEO of CPS and candidate for Chicago Mayor. Paul, Jackson Park was in need of redevelopment, and now the wonders of the Obama Library. People are going to be able to go there and shoot hoops for free, Paul.
Well, first of all, the charges, I think, are on par or exceed the charges of all the other presidential libraries. At least that's what I've read. But Jackson Park is like Vatican City. It's like a city within a city. It's Jackson Park is in the university. I mean, the University of Chicago. That's their stronghold there.
And Hyde Park. Is Hyde Park a community in need of redevelopment? Has that fallen into disrepair?
If there's one community and not in disrepair, and one community not in need of development, it's Hyde Park. Also, they've taken some very, very, very valuable park property away to build a museum in that location. And of course, the city's going to have to pay well north of $100 million just for infrastructure repairs. So obviously it is going to cost. Look, the president was allegedly a community organizer on the South Side. I grew up in the Roseland area, was born in Roseland Hospital. I would have hoped that you could have located the library maybe on the old Pullman manufacturing site, hundreds of acres that have never been developed. And anchor, if you really wanted to anchor a community, that could have been a community that you could have anchored. But obviously, they took the one area of the city that didn't need development at all, and they just have stuck this huge monolith right smack dab in the middle of Jackson Park. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. It is what it is in Chicago. That's a phrase that pops up again and again. Speaking of it is what it is in Roseland, another mass shooting in Chicago this year. 13 people shot on Friday night. Thankfully, it appears, I know one was reported in critical condition, but it appears all the victims are going to survive. But here again, the one thing we need to do, though, I mean, we're close. We just need a few more safe social spaces like the one Brandon Johnson referenced at the Art Institute, and then this ugliness will disappear. That's what I'm led to believe.
Well, look, Chicago, the new normal for Chicago is to continue to lead the country in not only shootings and attempted murders, but also in mass shootings, and also the number of children who have been shot and killed and wounded. Chicago's got to. This is the 30th mass shooting this year. The 30th mass shooting this year.
Yeah, but crime is down.
That's right, and crime is down. And of course, murders are up 6%. Chicago, again, is leading the nation with murders this year at 206. And no attention drawn to the fact that, again, Chicago is leading the nation in school-age children shot and killed. There have been 74 children shot already in Chicago this year, 15 of whom were killed. So, the mayor's going to talk about safe spaces and violence interrupters and probably throwing a little of his affordable housing jargon and all the things that he's doing to get at the institutional undercurrents that are the reason for violent crime. The bottom line is they still haven't gotten a handle on things, and another mass shooting is just an example. Let me also point out that it should be very alarming. They solved very few of these mass shooting cases. I think it was the Sun-Times that did a story about a year ago where they looked at mass shootings over a period of like 6 years, and mass shootings that had resulted in about 100 people being shot and many of them killed. And I think the arrest rate was like 1% or 2%. Mm-hmm. So these shootings are occurring, and they're not solving the crimes.
On the criminal justice system, I mean, the other side of it, not police, but prosecutors and judges. So, Chief Judge Beach, how are we doing on the electronic monitoring program? Another story over the weekend. Man robbed FedEx driver while on electronic monitoring, according to his ankle bracelet GPS, another master criminal. But the point is, the electronic monitoring program that Charles Beach said he was going to get a handle on, they, a couple of weeks back, celebrated themselves for only having 8% of those on electronic monitoring go rogue and disappear, and they didn't know where they were. 8% of 3,000 people, 244 people roaming around who are inclined to violent crime is problematic, not certainly in the best interest of public safety. So, what about the job in your assessment that Burke and Beach are doing on the other side of the criminal justice system?
Well, I think Burke is doing an excellent job. Beach, the jury is still out. The mere fact that they're maintaining this electronic monitoring system and they're not really being aggressive about at least trying to severely limit who is on electronic monitoring. And I mean people put on electronic monitoring who have committed violent crimes. I mean, the bottom line is, I think the jury is still out, but the jury is not on Burke. I mean, the murder rate has declined up until
well, you just said it's up 6% this year, year over year.
Yeah, let me point out that post-COVID, the murder rate dropped across the nation, as we well know. Chicago's decline was half that of the nation. Since Burke has gotten elected, the murder rate in Chicago has fallen to the levels that they have fallen nationally, and that's because Burke, if you look at all the statistics, the jail population has returned to the pre-COVID level. So clearly, she has been much more aggressive than Fox in keeping dangerous criminals off the street, which is why, Dan, she is being attacked, why they're accusing her of not going after ICE agents. I mean, why they're accusing her of having abandoned Fox's policies of, releasing individuals for alleged police misconduct, despite the fact that they've never had to offer any proof that they've been innocent. I mean, the criminal industrial complex in the city has enriched themselves with hundreds of millions of dollars in legal settlements for individuals who were released from Fox and then given certificates of innocence, even though they've demonstrated they've offered no proof that they're innocent. Recently, Marcel Brown just got a $30 million settlement. He was incarcerated for being on a ride-along that resulted in somebody getting killed, and he got released. He got a certificate of innocence by Fox, and then he ended up getting a $30 million settlement in court.
No, I mean, I concede the point, but I mean, the bar couldn't have been lower than Kim Fox. So I concede the point, except for this. Is it just, a little bit more competence and common sense, but it's not really the system change that's required. And I cite Eileen O'Neill Burke's statement that she supports the Safety Act. I mean, if you support the Safety Act in its current constitution or its previous iteration or any proposed reformed iteration, then in my mind, you are either being cynical and taking a political position you really don't believe, or you are not someone who is going to advance the flag for public safety in a comprehensive way.
Yeah, well, I think that's more about rhetoric and politics, because they are going after her. They're already working to undermine her. Tony Preckwinkle and company, they control her budget at the end of the day. But when it comes to what she's doing on domestic violence, or what she's doing in prosecutions, the crime on the CTA, or for that matter, just the mere fact that literally in a year the jail population has returned to the pre-COVID levels, I think that in itself shows that she is trying to do the job. She's just kind of trying to keep a low profile. And I think the fact that the trial lawyers are coming after, because all these protests over ICE, they're all being funded and orchestrated by the trial lawyers that are out there.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, right.
So I think she has done a better job, a far better job, but at the end of the day, she certainly is. I think she's trying to keep a low profile, or give them a narrow profile to come after politically.
By the way, just on the Obama library, I got this text from my friend Amy Jacobson, our mutual friend. It's $30 to get into Obamalisk on Tuesday, and get in. Tuesdays are free, but you have to show an ID. Show an ID! Oh, heavens. To prove that you're a Chicago resident. And they're sold out until November, so I'm not going to be able to shoot hoops there with Ali G until November. That's unfortunate, but we appreciate the update from Amy. So, Paul, speaking of Ali G and Susana Mendoza and George Cardenas, these Ali G is not formally out, but he's moving in that direction. And the other names mentioned, the lobbyist John Kelly, and I don't know, the whole Maria Pappas, the candidates that are making noise about running for mayor, or who have already announced for mayor. I know they're not monolithic, but do you see anyone in the field, actual or suggested, that is going to take the city in a substantial positive direction, as opposed to the whole change on the outside to protect continuity on the inside that we've been doing for so long?
Well, not yet. And again, I really haven't seen them say anything of substance so far. Of course, more are going to enter the race, and who knows if Johnson will even run. He'll take his marching orders from Stacey Davis Gates. But I will tell you, Rahm Emanuel took a pause from his bicycle tour in New Hampshire. I put a nice piece on Rahm Emanuel and the Contrarian to come to town to talk to my donors, not about his election his race for mayor, but actually to talk to my donors about why they should not support me if I run for mayor again, or why they should not support me if I run for school board president. Now, of course, I have no intention of running for either, but the mere fact that he would be particularly obsessed with me was kind of really strange.
Well, why what did he say? Why shouldn't they?
The usual stuff. He tries to do too much, or he's all over the board. The usual things. When you're trying to tackle multiple issues, which means when you're trying to tackle the right issues, and they can't fault you, or they can't attack you on your integrity, they then try to say that he's unfocused or he's undisciplined, and that crap. And that stuff I've always faced all my life. But the mere fact that he would pause and come out here to talk about me, that's part of the Michael Sachs crew. I mean, they're going to try to handpick the next mayor of the city of Chicago. I've told everybody that, just replacing Johnson is not going to do it.
Right.
We need someone who's going to be a change agent. I do want to point out that whoever is the next mayor, and this is really important, Dan, I know you talked about this, whoever is the next mayor, the city is totally screwed if the Chicago Teachers Union is able to maintain control of the Chicago Public School Board in the school board elections. And because at the end of the day, the city, when I was the school chief, we were provided not a dime in additional subsidies from the city. We balanced our budgets on our own. You remember that era. Today, the Chicago Public Schools receives an additional $1.3 billion from the city. The city can't balance its own budget because they're constantly increasing their subsidies to the Chicago Public Schools. And, of course, the Chicago Public Schools are an absolute disaster. They're working overtime to even destroy public school choice, like charters and magnet schools. The union is a political organization, and the schools are just their bank. So at the end of the day, if you don't get if you don't dislodge the control of the Chicago Teachers Union from the school board, the city is, there's no way you're going to be able to even begin to address the critical financial issues that the city's facing.
When Rahm came to talk to your donors, taking a break from his bicycle tour, he wasn't wearing those tight bicycle shorts, was he?
No, he's had the good sense of not doing that.
Oh, thank God. Yeah.
Absolutely. But he was an absolute disaster as mayor.
Yes.
And I really encourage people to read my contrarian piece because, I felt since Rahm decided to once again make me the focus, I would kind of return the favor.
Who do you think is the worst possible choice that Chicagoans can make from the field as constituted or projected? In my mind, it's, to your point in the standard of what has to happen, it's Giannoulias. He's the worst possible candidate you could choose if you want to see the city improve, because he will be it's just going to go back to the sort of the user-friendly era of different rent-seeking, contrived institutional interests. He's, in my view, a complete mimbo, another guy who just wants to wear the sash like our governor, and because that gives him self-actualization. That to me is the worst choice you could make because he's such a phony.
Well, I'll tell you what, what I'm going to do during the course of this race. We've been through the Urban Center, which is the organization we created post-election, post my election. Obviously, we helped Burke get elected, and we worked very hard to try to defeat Tony Preckwinkle. And surprise, surprise, right? 3 months after the primary, Tony Preckwinkle announces we have a $550 million budget at the county level, and property taxes are going to be the billings are going to be delayed again. Well, so we've been working overtime, but we've been talking to every one of the announced and unannounced candidates who clearly have floated there to really, try to talk sense to them and try to tell them what the issues are and what the pathways are to addressing those problems and those needs. I, at some point, as well as the individuals who are involved and my donors, at some point will come out and we'll identify who we feel is the strongest, most substantive candidate, and and go after the weak candidates that are out there. I'm not prepared to say that now because I'm still having a conversation with each and every one of them. But at the right time, I won't hesitate to do that. You've never known me to be shy about offering my opinion.
Paul Val, a senior policy advisor to Illinois Policy Institute, writes weekly for the Chicago Contrarian, former CEO of CPS and candidate for mayor. Paul, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Have a great week.
You too. And you join us in the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
And now it's time for the Cat's Corner.
This is John Catsimatidis with the Cat's Corner. I want to get something off my chest. We have too many professional politicians. I go back to that original movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. We need common sense business people that go to Washington and they want to do the right job for everybody. We don't need professional politicians that go to Washington and are on the payroll of every lobbyist in Washington. That turns my stomach. And I live in New York State. I see what's happening in New York State. I see what's happening in California. I see what's happening in Illinois and these blue states. And I was a Bill Clinton Democrat and still good friends with President Clinton. Common sense, wanting to do the right thing for all Americans. And I think that is important. Let's vote for common sense. Not the smile, not necessarily the good-looking politician, not necessarily the person that's trying to tell you you're going to get everything for free. Think things out. That is today's Cat's Corner. I'm John Catsimatidis.
Let Cole Digital turn your outdoor space into the ultimate entertainment setup. With a 75-inch SunBright outdoor TV that can stay out year-round and great sound throughout. Like planter speakers on the patio, high-quality rock speakers that blend right into your landscape, or bronze garden speakers that blend into the environment. Our technicians will dig a hole and install an in-ground subwoofer for incredible bass and the best in sound quality. We also install outdoor-rated access points for Wi-Fi coverage throughout your yard, and cameras that let you keep an eye on everything with motion-activated recording. Tour our Cole Digital Design Center, 15,000 square feet of audio, video, and great design ideas. Cole Digital is family-owned by conservatives that share your values, and we're based right in Frankfurt. Visit Cole Digital today and schedule your consultation. ColeDigital.com. That's K-O-L-E digital.com. Or call 815-469-2000, and we'll bring the showroom to you. 815-469-2000. Cole Digital, what smart living is all about.
Your kitchen's outdated. Your bathroom feels cramped. Every day you wait, prices go up. And you keep living in a space that doesn't work. At Forever Remodeling, one team handles everything. Design, planning, and installation, start to finish. We show you your new space in 3D before we ever break ground. No surprises. With flexible financing options, the home you want is closer than you think. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com to schedule your personalized in-home design consultation.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:38, our latest edition of Sports and Politics. Freddie the German invited to the White House. World Cup fan fever, not soccer. World Cup fan fever, catch it. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Sunshine at 8:32. In our QC Kinetics newsroom, at least 36 were shot, 7 fatally in shootings across Chicago this weekend. Mayor Brandon Johnson responded to the violence.
We're not going to tolerate the senseless acts of violence, and we're going to continue to ensure that we make the critical investments to not just hold people accountable, but to make sure that we're preventing these acts of violence from ever occurring.
Police investigators are probing a mass shooting that left more than a dozen hurt on Chicago's South Side. Vice President J.D. Vance at a Swiss resort in the Alps. Talks are being held to try and arrange peace with Iran.
Can we turn over a new leaf? Can we change relations in the Middle East permanently? Or do we go back to doing things the old way, which is not our preference, but is certainly very much something that can happen?
It comes amid uncertainty over the Strait of Hormuz. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is resigning after winning election in 2024.
I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision. I will ask the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party to set out a timetable with nominations opening on the 9th of July and completed by the summer recess.
His resignation today marks the 7th different prime minister over the past decade. Former Fed Chair Alan Greenspan is dead at the age of 100. In other news this morning, 3 are in custody following an attempted robbery on a CTA bus on Chicago's South Side. The offenders beat the victim before exiting the bus and were later placed into custody by Chicago police. Elgin police are investigating after a woman's body was pulled from the Fox River. The body located yesterday in the river north of the Kimball Street Bridge. And 2 have died due to strong storms Sunday afternoon in southern Illinois. Jefferson County Sheriff Jeff Bullard confirmed the deaths. Much of that damage near the small town of Dix, which sits along I-57 between Salem and Mount Vernon. Chicago sports, White Sox lost to the Tigers in 10, 5-4. Cubs and Blue Jays rained out. Cubs begin a road set against the Mets tonight. The news service of the AM 560 mobile app. Download the app at 560theanswer.com/mobile. A check of your roads comes your way in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Larry Elder says the evidence speaks for itself.
Jasmine Crockett says if you reverse the race of the parties involved, the outcome would have been different. If Metcalf had been black and Carmelo Anthony white, different verdict. No evidence of that whatsoever. Neither the defense nor the prosecution said race had anything to do with the encounter. The defense argued self-defense. So why then are we talking about it?
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Gary Carr, retired homicide detective and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. For 10 years, we've helped more than 20,000 students become safe, responsible, and confident firearm owners. If you're looking to get your Illinois Concealed Carry license or need to renew, now's the perfect time. Our law enforcement-led training gives you the knowledge and skills to protect yourself and your family. Our 16-hour concealed carry class includes live fire training, one-on-one coaching, Illinois and Florida certification for expanded reciprocity, range qualification, and a full-color textbook. We provide the firearm, ammunition, eye and ear protection, targets, and range access. Need a renewal? Our 3-hour renewal class keeps you legal and current on Illinois firearm laws. Thousands of students have trusted us for professional instruction, flexible scheduling, and exceptional value. Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian for classes, less lethal options, and self-defense legal plans. Visit us at concealedcarrychicago.com to reserve your seat today. That's concealedcarrychicago.com, concealedcarrychicago.com.
This is Seth Leibson for townhall.com. As we celebrate our 250th anniversary as a nation, it is worth reflecting on what got us here and kept us going, living as we do under the longest-lasting Constitution in world history. From the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution, our country's framers set about establishing this most successful of political governing structures because they understood a few truths. Given low polling about American pride these days, they are truths about which we may need to ask, are they still self-evident? We began this experiment declaring a recognition of something higher than man, the laws of nature and nature's God, and a creator, endowing us with a right to self-government and a recognition that we human beings are all equal, especially in our inequality before God. Rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are not given or tolerated by government or man, but God. Our founding fathers all understood and enshrined this for us, but too many here have forgotten or unlearned this. Sadly, just now, we need a great relearning.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Mark?
I've been doing home remodeling for 30 plus years, but the economy crashed. I wound up losing my home, losing my job, and on top of that, owing the IRS a ton of money. I owed the IRS $114,000. It really, truly was the worst part of my life.
Then Mark found tax relief advocates.
On news radio, I heard about TRA, and I thought, what's the worst that could happen? So I picked up the phone and I called them. When it was all said and done, TRA settled my $114,000 debt for $100, and I'm telling you, I was ecstatic, could not believe it. Would recommend TRA to anyone.
If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Mark did and call TRA for a consultation.
But TRA did, they gave me a second chance, and I'm forever grateful.
Visit TRA.com or call 800-575-8924. 800-575-8924. That's 800-575-8924.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering 24/7 security solutions for homes and businesses. Call them today at 708-889-5600.
8:39 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Accident Kennedy inbound between Irving Park and Armitage, being swept out of your lane, but delays remain. Stop and go traffic on DuSable Lakeshore Drive this morning, northbound between Bryn Mawr and Hollywood. Route 53 stop and go on the brakes between the Ike and Kirchhoff, all in that construction zone. And an accident being cleaned up, Butterfield and Route 59 in Warrenville. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, a check of your forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. Breezy today, sun and some clouds, and a high of 74.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Sports and politics and sports and politics and sports and politics and intersection. Arrogance and ignorance, arrogance, ignorance, and arrogance and ignorance. Intersection.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and World Cup fan fever. It's reaching a fever pitch, actually, with the news that Freddie the German, whose postings have gone viral. He's got like 750,000 followers on X now. Freddie the German has been invited to the White House as he, as I said, has gone viral with all his postings of what he finds to be the wonders of America. It's good stuff. Ambassador Nick Adams, who is the special presidential envoy for American tourism, confirmed that Freddie has been invited to the White House. He called Freddie's journey to the United States a fabulous thing for our country. And he said, I think it was the Ella Langley declaration that he was a big Ella Langley fan that sealed it, because Nick Adams, the Trump administration official, is as well. And I thought, this is exactly the kind of guy that is taken to America. What a great ambassador for our country. What a great person to have. Representing what America is really like. He and his two friends, Freddie the German, his two friends, have been given tours of the New Orleans Saints and New Orleans Pelicans facilities, put up in a hotel by Houston Texans great, J.J. Watt. Took a tour of LSU and Tiger Stadium. Hung out with the Houston Police Department. Met the mayor of Houston. Took a tour of the International Space Station, NASA. He also, I mean, but this is all the culmination of posting things like celebrating Germany's win with a dinner at Denny's. And you see him picture the meal at Denny's, like, you know, very complimentary, excited. He had one post. We found another surreal place on our way. This is a couple weeks ago now. I know some people will say I'm too positive about everything, but this place was crazy. They had a shooting range in the store. You know where he was? The Bass Pro Shop. It's so good. It's really, really entertaining. And I mean, just the sort of childlike joy, like a kid on Christmas Day opening presents, that he and so many of these World Cup fans are bringing to their commentary on their experiences in America. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com. Call and text line. So if I can't get behind soccer, at least I can get behind some of these soccer fans. This is a good observation from a poster on X, Cynical Publius. He said, let me explain why I think Freddie resonates. Lots of Europeans visit the USA as tourists. They visit New York or Washington, D.C. or Hollywood or Las Vegas. And if they visit any natural beauty, they go to really crowded places like the Grand Canyon or Yellowstone. So while they see our cultural and natural icons, they're mostly in blue cities, and therefore they also see the decline, the homeless, the drugs, the dirt, and the rude Americans. Yes, big cities. But Freddie isn't doing that. Freddie is driving, and he's doing it through the heartland where people are kind and polite. The skies are wide open, and the bounty of Buc-ee's and Bass Pro Shops are overwhelming. Freddie is not seeing fentanyl in decline. He is seeing the real, hopeful, patriotic, kind America that European tourists rarely traverse, and he loves it. That's why he's a phenomenon. I think that's largely right. Yeah. And by contrast, so the people he's not seeing, the cosmopolitan sophisticates in the big blue cities, the people like Elie Mystal, who's a lawyer of sorts. He's the fat Don King looking guy on MS Now often. This is his op-ed in The Nation. I mean, it's not even worth reading. All you need to know is the headline, and you know who he is, this identitarian crank. His op-ed in The Nation, I hope Iran wins the World Cup. Just to stick it to Trump. Can you imagine rooting again? I mean, I hope Iran for the Iranian people does well, and, you know, they can have something to cheer on, because it's certainly not going to be their regime. But that's the attitude. And it's all over the place in these leftist outlets. The Economist. European football fans visiting America are discovering the mass affluence of the country's suburbs. The wealth enticing holiday makers, the wealth enticing holiday makes troubles. The wealth, enticing holiday makes troubles European elites. Partly as this is, grammatical errors, but it's troubling to European elites. The wealth enticing excitement of places that European soccer fans are finding, and their excitement over it makes trouble for European elites. Everything is through the prism of what makes trouble for European elites. They're seeing freedom and the byproduct of more free markets and minds in this country, and more problems at home forthcoming. The Atlantic. The feel-good story of the World Cup is too good to be true. Some of the people celebrating American excess are not what they seem. Oh, the real expose into this. It's just so silly. So anyway, it's great. It's just fun to see such excitement over this country, and we're, of course, jaded by some of the things that are animating all these European soccer fans who want to come back, or celebrating America, are, again, the Brits who went to that Buc-ee's and said this place has more food than the entirety of England. Now, onto soccer itself, though, we've got problems. David Agus is a doctor. He's the CEO of the Ellison Medical Institute and professor of medicine at USC. Soccer can hurt a young person's brain. Whatever happened to concerns about CTE with soccer players? The American Youth Soccer Organization has recognized this and put limits on it, including a heading ban for players 12 and under. A deliberate header results in an indirect free kick. For 13 and 14-year-olds, heading practice is limited to 30 minutes a week with no more than 20 headers a player. But he says, well, why should this stop at the adolescent level? Why not continue these protections well into college or through college? The prefrontal cortex, the brain's command center, doesn't finish developing until the mid to late 20s, he makes the point. Very Tim Evans-esque. And he talks about studies that suggest, much higher rates of death from neurodegenerative disease, higher risk of dementia among soccer players. He writes, doctors used to worry almost exclusively about concussions, but most headers don't produce a concussion diagnosis. The greater danger may be subconcussive impacts, which don't trigger a sideline exam and are forgotten by dinner, but biology records what memory doesn't. Biomarker and imaging studies are beginning to show what parents and coaches can't see. In a randomized control of 15 male soccer players, a heading risk was associated with changes in brain chemistry and function, plus elevations in biomarkers leading to brain tissue injuries. A 2026 study of roughly 300 male amateur players found temporary increases in brain damage markers after heading, with stronger effects after frequent and high-impact headers. What about the impact of all that flopping? And so, his point is the body keeps score even if the singular event doesn't register as a concussion, the buildup of heading the ball or attempting to heading the ball over time. And I have a solution to that. Use your frickin' hands. Make it a sport. Jordan in Antioch, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, Dan. Hold on 1 second. I got to switch over. Do my ears deceive me? Are you getting excited about soccer?
Soccer fans. Soccer fans lauding America, not soccer. That's an important distinction.
I can hear it in your voice. I think you've secretly ordered one of those obnoxious tin horns, and you and John Cass will be sighted somewhere blowing your tin. Listen, I
got one of those kazoos they were blowing from 4 years ago or something.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, you can't help but watch, right? It's America. They're doing well. And I'm behind anything that, even if I don't normally watch it, except for the WNBA and anything Megan Rapinoe's involved in. But that being said, I was watching that game between America and Australia, and there's something to be said about soccer that I watched that game and I counted no less than 642 possible concussion protocols. So those guys are in it for serious. I mean,
wow.
So it's hard not to watch.
No, it's not that hard.
Come on, nobody's going out and taking 80-mile-an-hour soccer, footballs to the head without a helmet. So I'll give them that. I'm not all in. I'm just saying, I'll give them that. It's not as easy as it looks. And when you sign up for a possible concussion at the end of the day, kudos to you. You might as well play rugby. I don't know. It's Australian rules football.
Thanks for the call, Jordan. No, it's not as easy as it looks, but it is as tedious as it looks. Also, this is sort of a fascinating phenomenon. I guess it doesn't surprise me, particularly like the Brits, the Irish. But the fascination with ranch dressing and hot sauce. All the people, I'm much more fascinated by the European soccer fans than I am the actual calisthenics. But yeah, the TSA has provided a reminder that you have to pack the ranch dressing in your checked luggage. It's risen to the level that TSA had to put a missive out, and the other, all these restaurants and sauce makers are also providing advisories to soccer fans. Buffalo Wild Wings. Our soccer dip flight with 6 new global dips is perfectly TSA safe for your flight back home. And another guy posted like all the stuff his wife wanted him to bring back from the U.S. Maple syrup, chipotle sauce from Taco Bell. I mean, come on, guys, we could do better than this. How about at least Frank's hot sauce? And the ranch dressing thing. The ranch dressing thing keeps popping up. It's so wild. But I guess that relatively flavorless fare in some countries. I don't think the Italians are bringing this back, but maybe in some of those other countries I mentioned, I could understand it.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group, and I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney, and the truth is I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. After 15 years and over 50,000 cancellations, I can tell you with confidence, we know how to get you out of your timeshare. Call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit guide absolutely free with all your options for cancellation. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-921-5252. That's 800-921-5252. 800-921-5252.
This 4th of July, celebrate America the right way. Fire up the grill. Invite the family over, launch the fireworks, and proudly display a handcrafted wooden American flag from UniqueWoodenFlags.com. These stunning hand-finished wooden flags are built with real craftsmanship and patriotic pride. Whether you want a classic American flag, military tribute flag, America First design, or a beautiful flag cross that celebrates both faith and freedom, they've got something for every proud American. Perfect for your home, office, man cave, lake house, garage, or as a meaningful gift for veterans, first responders, and patriots who still love this country. This Independence Day, don't just wave the flag. Display it with pride. Visit UniqueWoodenFlags.com today. That's UniqueWoodenFlags.com.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line, right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Crosscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Crosscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Crosscom.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Crosscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Crosscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Every morning, students and faculty fill your school's hallways. And every morning, parents trust you to know who's there with them. With ID Supply, that trust is earned and visible. From student and staff ID cards to secure visitor badge systems, ID Supply helps you instantly identify who belongs on campus at a glance, while keeping your entire facility safer. Visitor badges expire automatically, so no one stays longer than they should. And parents, they can feel confident knowing their school has a system in place. Need supplies? We've got you covered. ID card printers, ribbons, and custom lanyards in your school colors. Most orders ship same day. Parents, if your child's school doesn't have a visitor ID system, ask them about ID Supply, because knowing who's on campus shouldn't be a question. Get 10% off your first order with code SCHOOL10. That's SCHOOL10. Visit IDsupply.com or call 800-647-5562. Again, that's 800-647-5562. ID Supply. Trusted by schools for over 20 years.
Platform safety is so important in your industrial facility. You need to keep personnel safe and meet OSHA requirements. Experience one problem with your platforms, and you could be facing costly fines or worse. Vans Industrial helps you meet OSHA standards to keep your employees safe.
Hi, I'm Dave Van Camp, president of Vans Industrial. As a metal fabricator, I know the importance of keeping your workplace safe. Vans Industrial is a specialty contractor uniquely equipped to design, fabricate, and install safety equipment including steel catwalks, handrails, stairways, and ladders. Our team of union building trades mechanics can inspect existing systems, engineer solutions, fabricate quality steel products, and install it all, creating a safer workplace environment.
Call 833-VANS-IND for a free inspection of your building. See what else they can do for you. Visit vansindustrial.com. That's VANS industrial.com. Quality craftsmanship since 1964.
The following contains a celebrity impersonation.
Mr. President, we're seeing reporting that air conditioning systems are failing as temperatures rise. What is your response?
I said, don't wait. People wait until the last second, then suddenly it's hot and nothing works. I understand this stuff probably better than anybody.
Mr. President, why hasn't the White House issued any guidance?
I gave perfect guidance. Call Air Right Heating and Cooling. That's the guidance. If people followed it, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Sir, but homeowners have so many HVAC options.
They're not like Air Right. You've got some bad installers out there, some real bad hombres. I wouldn't let them near the White House. It would be a complete disaster.
Mr. President, there are reports of significant rebates on new systems. Can you confirm?
I've heard about them. A lot of people talking about them. If you miss out, you'd have to be really not so smart. Tremendous savings, let me tell you.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling at AIR-RITE.com. Air Right. Doing it right since 1959.
AM 560. The Answer.
Another example of the America-hating left. Joy Reid on the 4th of July.
Because in many ways, and with apologies to my dear spicy white friends, because I know that my white brothers and sisters do love a 4th of July. It is Independence Day. Everybody's barbecuing. It's a thing. I can promise you, Black folks, we will take that day off. We will barbecue because we off. But Black people, that nobody Black I know is really excited about the 4th of July because it is what Frederick Douglass said it is. It is the celebration of slaveholders who freed themselves from having to pay taxes to the crown for their slave empire. And that is what it is.
Frederick Douglass is spinning in his grave, having Joy Reid quote him. Thanks for joining us in another installment of Chicago's Morning Answer. It's now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
Iran just got a big financial green light. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The U.S. has issued a temporary 60-day license authorizing Iran's oil production and sales. Following weekend talks in Switzerland, where this morning Vice President Vance says
there is still a lot to do as we continue to make progress on the nuclear talks, on the economic talks, as we continue to demine the straits and ensure that flow of traffic continues to pick back up.
And oil prices are